Chapter 21, Lois Lane. Lois Lane sat at her desk in her apartment, surrounded by the clutter of papers and files scattered around her. She was deeply engrossed in her latest investigation, a story that promised to uncover secrets that could shake Metropolis to its core. Suddenly, her phone buzzed with an incoming call. She glanced at the caller ID. It was Perry White, her chief editor. Curious, she answered quickly. Lois Lane, she greeted, her voice steady amidst the quiet of her apartment. Lois, listen to me carefully, Perry's voice came urgently through the line. The FBI is here. They're asking questions about you and your recent investigations. I'm trying to stall them, but you need to get out of there, now. Lois's heart skipped a beat. She glanced around her apartment, noticing the urgency in Perry's voice. Without wasting another moment, she gathered her essentials and prepared to leave. Perry, how did they find out? Lois asked in a hushed voice, moving swiftly toward the door. I don't know, Lois, Perry replied urgently. But you have to go. Find somewhere safe. I'll do what I can to cover for you. Lois nodded, her mind racing with the implications. She couldn't risk being caught, not when she was so close to uncovering the truth. She made her way towards the fire escape, intending to slip out unnoticed. But as she reached the stairwell, she froze. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed behind her. She turned slowly, her heart sinking as she came face to face with two FBI agents blocking her path. Miss Lane, you're under arrest, one of them said, his voice firm and unwavering. Lois glanced around, searching for any means of escape. She knew she had to think quickly, buy herself some time to figure out her next move. Before she could react further, everything around her including the FBI agents suddenly froze in time. The apartment was eerily silent, frozen in a moment of suspended animation. Barry Allen, moving at superhuman speed, stepped into Lois's apartment with a confident smile. He surveyed the frozen scene, his keen eyes quickly assessing the situation. Well, Barry mused to himself, chuckling softly. Looks like someone needs a little help. He approached the two FBI agents, studying their frozen postures. With a quick motion, Barry gently moved them aside, clearing the way to Lois. I'll be borrowing this one, Barry said with a grin, his voice echoing through the stillness of the halted moment. In an instant, Barry whisked Lois into his arms and zoomed off with incredible speed. As he carried her through the frozen apartment, time seemed to stand still around them. The chaos of the FBI's intrusion, the clatter of her investigation files, and the unanswered questions all frozen in mid-action. Barry swiftly navigated through the frozen scene, taking Lois to a secluded spot outside the building where time would soon resume its natural flow. He gently set her down, ensuring she was safe and unharmed. Lois blinked in astonishment as the world around her suddenly snapped back into motion. The noise of the city outside resumed, albeit with a momentary confusion among the pedestrians and neighbors. What just happened? Lois stammered, trying to make sense of the surreal experience. Barry flashed her a reassuring smile. Hey there. Sorry for the abrupt exit. We don't have much time, but I promise I'll explain everything soon. Lois looked at Barry, her eyes wide with a mix of disbelief and curiosity. Who are you? Barry chuckled, realizing she didn't recognize him without his costume. I'm Barry Allen. But you might know me better as the Flash. Oh, I mean the Red Blue or Red Streak. The name Flash has not become official yet. Lois's eyes widened further, realization dawning on her. The Flash? But why? Barry interrupted gently, glancing back towards her apartment where the frozen agents were still suspended in time. We need to move. They'll be looking for you? Lois nodded, still processing everything. She followed Barry as he led her away from her apartment, away from the chaos and confusion left in the wake of his intervention. As they hurried through the streets of Metropolis, Barry asked, You know why they are looking for you, right? Lois nodded as she looked up in the sky looking at the spaceship looming over them. Good, now I need your help to talk to him. If I go alone, he is not going to listen to me but he is going to listen to you, Barry said. And what makes you think he is going to listen to me? Because unlike me, he has taken an interest in you, if you know what I mean. Barry led Lois through the bustling streets of Metropolis, moving quickly but cautiously to avoid drawing attention. The imposing spaceship hovered ominously above the city, casting a shadow over their path. They arrived at a discreet hotel, and Barry guided Lois through a side entrance, up a flight of stairs, and into a modest room. Inside, Bruce Wayne was seated at a small table, intently examining a gauntlet with a dull green glow emanating from it. Lois's eyes widened in surprise. Bruce Wayne, she exclaimed, looking between Barry and Bruce. What is Gotham's #1 playboy doing here? Bruce looked up, his expression calm and focused. Nice to see you, Miss Lane, he said, standing up. I assure you, this isn't a social visit. Lois turned to Barry, her eyes demanding answers. What's going on? Well, he is Batman. Chapter 22, Time for you to suit. Lois Lane's eyes widened in disbelief. Bruce Wayne is Batman, she repeated, looking between Barry and Bruce, trying to reconcile the image of the suave billionaire with the infamous vigilante. Bruce's expression tightened, his jaw clenching slightly. He shot Barry a questioning look, clearly displeased. Barry, was that really necessary? Barry met Bruce's gaze calmly. Look, Bruce, we're trying to gain her trust and KALLs. Keeping secrets isn't going to help us. We need to be transparent if we want her to help us reach him. Bruce sighed, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. He turned back to Lois, his expression more composed. Miss Lane, I apologize for the abrupt reveal. But Barry is right. We're in a precarious situation, and we need your help. Lois shook her head slightly, still processing. This is a lot to take in, she admitted. But if we're being honest, why exactly do you need my help to reach KALL? Bruce pointed out the window at the spaceship hovering ominously over Metropolis. To stop them, he said grimly, and since we know KALL is eventually going to reveal himself and confront them, we figured, why don't we do it together? Saving the world is not a one-man job. Lois looked at the spaceship, then back at Bruce and Barry. You're saying we need to form some sort of alliance? Barry nodded. Exactly. KALL respects you, Lois. Your voice can reach him in a way ours can't. If we can unite our strengths, we stand a better chance against whatever threat is coming. Bruce continued, we've gathered intelligence suggesting this spaceship is only the beginning. There are larger forces at play, and we need to be ready. KALL's involvement is crucial, but it has to be on the right terms. Lois took a deep breath, nodding slowly. All right, I'll do it. But we need a solid plan. Bruce and Barry exchanged relieved glances. We've been working on one, Bruce said. Follow me? He led them to a large table covered in blueprints, maps, and various documents. Bruce pointed to a detailed layout of Metropolis. Our first priority is ensuring the safety of the city. We'll establish secure zones and coordinate with local authorities to minimize civilian casualties. Barry added, meanwhile, we'll work on creating a communication channel with KALL. Lois, that's where you come in. Your presence and your voice could be the key to persuading him to join us. Lois nodded, her journalist instincts kicking in. I can do that. But I will not guarantee anything. Fair enough, said Barry. Bruce finished equipping the kryptonite gauntlet to his suit. The dull green glow from the embedded mineral contrasted sharply with the dark, high-tech armor he wore. Barry, now in his flash suit, looked at Lois and asked, ready? Lois took a deep breath and nodded. As ready as I'll ever be. With that, Barry grabbed both Batman and Lois, and in an instant, they were zooming through the city at superhuman speed. The world around them became a blur until they reached the quiet, serene landscape of the Kent farm. As they arrived and the world came back into focus, Lois noticed the green glow emanating from Bruce's suit. What's that green thing in your hand? She asked, curiosity and concern in her voice. Bruce glanced at the kryptonite gauntlet. This is kryptonite. It's a weakness against Kryptonians. The Flash acquired it from, well, let's just say from a place only he could reach. Barry smirked from the corner, clearly amused. Let's just say it's a useful piece of insurance. Lois frowned, her concern deepening. You're going to use that against Clark? Bruce shook his head. No, this is for General Zod and his army. We need something that can level the playing field. The kryptonite is just a precaution. Lois nodded, though she still seemed uneasy. All right. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. The trio approached the Kent farmhouse, its rustic charm standing in stark contrast to the high-stakes mission they were on. As they got closer, Barry slowed down, allowing them to approach the front door at a normal pace. Bruce knocked on the door, and after a few moments, it opened to reveal Martha Kent. She looked at the three unexpected visitors with a mixture of surprise and wariness. Can I help you? Lois stepped forward. Mrs. Kent, we need to speak with Clark. It's urgent. Martha's eyes narrowed slightly, her protective instincts kicking in. What is this about? It's about the spaceship hovering over Metropolis, Bruce said, his voice calm and authoritative. We believe Clark can help us, but we need to speak with him first. Martha hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Come in. I'll get him. As Martha led them into the house, Lois couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. She hoped they could convince Clark without needing to resort to the kryptonite. She knew the stakes were high, but she also knew that the path they were on was fraught with uncertainty and potential danger. A few moments later, Clark Kent entered the room, his expression serious and concerned. What's going on? He asked, looking between Lois, Bruce, and Barry. Clark's presence was commanding yet humble. Standing at an impressive height with a muscular build, he moved with quiet confidence. His dark hair was neatly combed, and his piercing blue eyes reflected both intelligence and concern. The strong, chiseled features of his face were familiar to Lois, but they now carried a weight of responsibility that went beyond his usual demeanor. Lois stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. Clark, this is the Flash, she said, gesturing to the man in the red suit. And this, she indicated Bruce, is Batman. Clark's eyes widened slightly as he glanced at Bruce and Barry. Batman and the Flash, he said, a hint of astonishment in his voice. What are you doing here? Bruce stepped forward, his tone serious. We're here because of the spaceship hovering over Metropolis. General Zod and his army are planning something, and we need your help to stop them. What do you want me to do? Time for you to suit up, Clark. No more dulling. Chapter 23, No idea. Bruce stepped forward, his tone serious. We're here because of the spaceship hovering over Metropolis. General Zod and his army are planning something, and we need your help to stop them. Clark's eyes narrowed with determination. What do you want me to do? Bruce's voice was steady. Time for you to suit up, Clark. No more dulling. Clark nodded, and within minutes, he had donned his Superman suit, the iconic red and blue costume fitting him perfectly. He stood in front of Flash and Batman, the symbol of hope and strength clear on his chest. As he looked at Bruce, he said, All right, Bruce, I'm ready. Bruce frowned slightly, looking at both Barry and Lois, but before he could speak, Clark added, I have X-ray vision. I can see through your mask. Bruce's expression relaxed, though he glanced at Barry. And him. Clark looked at Barry, smiling slightly. I don't know you. Barry chuckled, unfazed. Not surprising. I'm not as well known out of the suit. I'm Barry Allen, also known as the Flash. Clark extended his hand to Barry. Nice to meet you, Barry. Thank you for coming. Barry shook Clark's hand, a sense of camaraderie forming. We're in this together. Bruce, now more at ease, stepped forward. Now that we're all on the same page, let's go over the plan. We need to confront Zod and his forces head-on, but we do it strategically. Clark nodded. Lead the way, Batman. Let's save the world. Flash, Batman, and Superman stood at the front of the Kent compound, the farmhouse bathed in the soft light of the early morning sun. Martha Kent, her eyes filled with a mixture of pride and worry, hugged her son tightly. Be safe, Clark, she whispered. The world needs you, but I need you too. Clark returned the embrace, his expression tender. I promise, Mom. I'll be back. As Martha stepped back, she gave a reassuring smile to Batman and Flash, who watched the scene in respectful silence. Thank you for looking out for him, Martha said, her voice steady. Bruce nodded. We'll do everything we can, Mrs. Kent. Barry gave a small, encouraging smile. We'll bring him back safe and sound. With a final nod to his mother, Superman began to levitate, his cape fluttering gently in the breeze. He glanced down at Flash and Batman. Bruce raised an eyebrow. Not everyone can fly, you know. Before Clark could respond, Barry chimed in with a grin, but you have a jet, don't you? As he spoke, lightning began to crackle and dance around his body, readying himself for the sprint. Bruce sighed and pressed a button on his wrist. From seemingly out of nowhere, the Batwing roared into view, landing smoothly on the Kent farm. The sleek, black jet contrasted starkly with the rustic surroundings. Show off, Barry muttered with a smirk, though his eyes held a hint of admiration. Lois Lane, who had been standing nearby, stepped forward. I'm coming with you. Bruce frowned. It's going to be dangerous, Lois. I know, she replied firmly. But I'm not staying behind. After a moment of hesitation, Bruce nodded. All right. But stay close and follow our lead. Lois nodded, her determination unwavering. She quickly boarded the Batwing, followed by Bruce. Superman, still hovering, looked at Flash. Ready to race. Barry grinned, the lightning intensifying around him. You bet. With that, Superman shot into the sky, a blur of red and blue, while Flash took off in a streak of lightning. The Batwing followed closely, cutting through the air with precision and speed. Martha watched them go, her hands clasped together in a silent prayer for their safety. The farmhouse, now quiet, seemed to hold its breath as the heroes embarked on their mission to save the world. Flash arrived at the destination first, coming to a stop in front of the massive spaceship hovering ominously over Metropolis. The city below seemed tense, its usual hustle and bustle subdued by the looming threat. Flash scanned the area, taking in the sight of the sleek, metallic vessel that seemed to pulse with an eerie energy. Moments later, Superman arrived, descending from the sky to hover beside Flash. His eyes narrowed as he studied the spaceship, trying to gauge its defenses and the best approach. Impressive, Flash remarked, glancing at Superman. But we still have to wait for Bruce. Superman nodded, his focus unwavering. He won't be long. True to Superman's words, the Batwing soon appeared, swooping in with its signature silent stealth. It landed smoothly on a rooftop nearby, and Batman emerged, followed by Lois Lane, who looked slightly awed by the sight of the spaceship. All right, Batman said, joining Superman and Flash. We need to figure out a way to breach their defenses without causing too much collateral damage. Zod's forces will likely be expecting us. Superman nodded. I'll handle the heavy lifting. Flash, you focus on disabling any external defenses they might have. Batman, you'll coordinate our efforts and keep an eye out for any surprises. Flash grinned. Got it. Speed and precision, my specialty, but I can still pack a punch. Batman turned to Lois. Stay close to me. If things get too dangerous, you retreat. Understood. Lois nodded, her eyes steely. I understand, Bruce. Just make sure you bring everyone back. Superman took a deep breath. Let's move. Superman shot up toward the spaceship, his eyes glowing with determination. Flash darted around the perimeter, a blur of red as he identified and disabled various external turrets and defense mechanisms. Batman, using his advanced gadgets and tactical mind, coordinated their movements and kept track of Zod's forces, ensuring they stayed one step ahead. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the spaceship, descending gracefully to the ground below. It was Feyre, Zod's trusted lieutenant. She landed with a predatory grace, her eyes locking onto Superman with a fierce intensity. Kall, Feyre said, her voice cold and commanding. You should have stayed hidden. Now, you will face the consequences of defying General Zod. Superman landed softly on the ground, his expression resolute. We won't let you harm this city, Feyre. Feyre smirked, her stance shifting into a combat-ready position. Bold words, but can you back them up? Before Superman could respond, Flash appeared beside him, ready for action. You can have this one, I will wait for the big guy. Batman, still on the rooftop with Lois, watched the confrontation unfold. Stay focused, he muttered, his eyes scanning for any additional threats. Feyre launched herself at Superman with incredible speed, but Superman was ready. The two clashed in a flurry of punches and counterattacks, their movements almost too fast to follow. Chapter 24, Battling Against the Kryptonians. Superman braced himself as Feyre launched a lightning-fast punch, which he blocked with his forearm. The impact sent shockwaves through the air, but Superman stood firm. He countered with a powerful uppercut, which Feyre narrowly avoided by twisting mid-air. She retaliated with a spinning kick aimed at his midsection, but Superman caught her leg and threw her back, sending her crashing into a nearby building. Feyre recovered quickly, launching herself at Superman again. The two engaged in a fierce exchange of blows, each strike creating thunderous echoes across the battlefield. Feyre's precision and speed were impressive, but Superman's strength and resilience kept him in the fight. As their battle raged on, Superman grabbed Feyre by the arm and swung her into the ground, creating a crater. He hovered above her, eyes glowing with heat vision. This ends now, Feyre. Before he could unleash his heat vision, a massive figure suddenly emerged from the spaceship and charged at Superman. It was Namikaze, Zod's giant enforcer. His fist, as large as a boulder, swung towards Superman with terrifying speed and force. Out of nowhere, Flash appeared, grabbing Namikaze's fist just in time. "Hey, big guy, ever heard of personal space?" Flash quipped, holding back Namikaze's punch with a smirk. With a burst of speed, Flash delivered a single, powerful punch to Namikaze's jaw, sending the giant flying several miles away, crashing into the outskirts of the city with a tremendous impact. Superman nodded at Flash in gratitude. "Nice timing, Flash." Flash grinned. "Just doing my part. Now, let's take these guys down." Feyre, recovering from Superman's throw, stood up and glared at the heroes. "You won't stop us. Zod's will is inevitable." Superman landed next to Flash, his eyes still locked on Feyre. "We'll see about that." Batman readied himself, glancing at his gauntlet to ensure the kryptonite was firmly in place. He looked at Lois, his expression serious. "Go back to the ship. It's time I get a piece of the action." With that, he jumped down and joined Flash and Superman on the battlefield. Namikaze landed beside Feyre, and several other Kryptonians arrived, forming an imposing lineup. Flash, taking in the scene, couldn't resist a quip. "Well, this looks like a fun party," he said, grinning. His eyes locked onto Namikaze. "Like I said earlier, I'll be taking the big guy." Lightning crackled around Flash, dancing along his body and sparking in his eyes. He vanished from his spot in an instant, and the next moment, Namikaze was sent flying upwards by a powerful punch. Flash, having acquired the super jump skill, leaped into the air and delivered another punch, sending Namikaze hurtling back down to the ground with a tremendous crash. Superman and Batman exchanged surprised glances. "I thought he was only fast," Superman remarked, eyes wide. "Same here," Batman replied, equally astonished. Flash, with lightning crackling around him, stood ready as Namikaze landed heavily in front of him. The massive Kryptonian sneered, clearly underestimating the speedster. "You think you can take me on, little man?" Namikaze growled. Flash grinned. "Let's see if you can keep up." Namikaze charged, swinging a massive fist. Flash sidestepped effortlessly, leaving after images in his wake. Before Namikaze could react, Flash delivered a rapid series of punches to his midsection, each blow landing with a thunderous impact. Namikaze staggered back, surprised by the speed and power of the attacks. "Not bad," Flash quipped, "but I'm just getting started." Namikaze roared in frustration and swung again, this time with both fists. Flash dodged, moving at lightning speed to land a powerful uppercut that sent Namikaze reeling. Taking advantage of the opening, Flash dashed around Namikaze, delivering blows from every angle, each strike fueled by his enhanced strength. Namikaze, disoriented and enraged, tried to focus on the blur that was Flash. "Stay still," he bellowed, swinging wildly. Flash laughed, his voice a blur as he spoke from multiple directions. "Sorry, big guy, that's not really my style." In a burst of speed, Flash launched himself at Namikaze, aiming for a decisive blow. With a powerful leap, he delivered a punch that sent Namikaze flying into the air. The force of the hit echoed through the battlefield, leaving the other combatants momentarily stunned. Flash, not giving Namikaze a chance to recover, followed him into the air using his super jump ability. As Namikaze reached the peak of his ascent, Flash appeared above him, lightning dancing around his fist. "Time for you to take a break," he said, delivering a devastating punch that sent Namikaze hurtling back down to the ground, creating a massive crater upon impact. Flash landed gracefully beside the crater, watching as Namikaze struggled to rise, clearly dazed. "That should keep you down for a while," Flash said with a satisfied grin. Superman, witnessing the display, couldn't help but be impressed. "Nice work, Flash." Flash gave a quick thumbs up before returning to the fray, ready to help his teammates deal with the remaining Kryptonians. The exchange had shown not only his speed but also his strength, making him a force to be reckoned with in the battle against Zod's forces. Feyre snarled, launching herself at Superman with renewed fury. Superman met her head-on, their clash causing shockwaves that rippled through the air. Batman, meanwhile, engaged two of the other Kryptonians, using his agility and the kryptonite gauntlet to keep them at bay. Batman stood his ground as two Kryptonians approached him, their expressions filled with disdain and overconfidence. He knew he had to be tactical and precise, sheer strength wouldn't be enough to win this fight. As they closed in, Batman activated his kryptonite gauntlet, the green glow casting an eerie light over his dark suit. The first Kryptonian lunged at Batman with blinding speed, but Batman was ready. He sidestepped the attack and delivered a swift punch with his kryptonite-infused gauntlet, striking the Kryptonian's ribcage. The alien warrior staggered back, gasping in pain as the kryptonite's effects took hold. Not so invincible now, are you? Batman taunted, keeping his guard up. The second Kryptonian, seeing his comrade's distress, roared in anger and charged. Batman, using his agility, performed a quick roll to avoid the attack, then sprang up and delivered a powerful kick to the back of the Kryptonian's knee. The alien fell to one knee, and Batman seized the moment to strike again with his gauntlet, this time hitting the Kryptonian in the shoulder. Both Kryptonians, though momentarily weakened, recovered quickly and attacked in unison. Batman found himself dodging and parrying blows from two sides. He used his grappling hook to create distance, firing it at a nearby structure and swinging away just as the Kryptonian's fist smashed into the ground where he had been standing. As he landed, Batman pulled a batarang from his belt and threw it with pinpoint accuracy, hitting the first Kryptonian in the forehead. The projectile was laced with a small amount of kryptonite, causing the alien to reel back in pain and fury. The second Kryptonian, seeing his partner in trouble, renewed his assault on Batman. This time, Batman met him head-on, using his gauntlet to block and counter every attack. He landed a crushing blow to the Kryptonian's jaw, sending him sprawling. Seeing both Kryptonians disoriented, Batman didn't let up. He quickly closed the distance and delivered rapid, precise strikes to each of them, targeting vital points with his kryptonite gauntlet. The aliens' movements became sluggish as the kryptonite weakened them further. Just then, one of the Kryptonians managed to grab Batman's arm, squeezing with enough force to crush steel. Batman grimaced in pain but didn't relent. Using his free hand, he pulled a small, cylindrical device from his belt and pressed it against the Kryptonian's neck. A high-pitched sonic blast erupted from the device, disorienting the Kryptonian and forcing him to release Batman. Batman capitalized on the moment, delivering a final, devastating punch to the Kryptonian's chest with his gauntlet. The alien fell back, too weak to continue the fight. The other Kryptonian, seeing his partner down and struggling to remain conscious himself, decided to retreat. He staggered back, his eyes filled with a mixture of anger and fear as he glanced at Batman one last time before flying off. Batman, breathing heavily, watched them go. He glanced at his gauntlet, satisfied to see the kryptonite still intact. As the battle raged on, the teamwork between Superman, Batman, and Flash began to turn the tide. The Kryptonians, though powerful, were being systematically overwhelmed by the coordinated efforts of the heroes. Superman's raw strength and resilience, Batman's strategic acumen and kryptonite weaponry, and Flash's speed and power created a formidable combination. Feyre, realizing the tide was turning against them, called out to her comrades. Fall back, regroup at the ship. The remaining Kryptonians began to retreat, with Feyre and a battered Nami-K providing cover. Flash moved to pursue, but Batman held up a hand. Let them go. We need to regroup ourselves and assess the situation. Superman nodded, his eyes still on the retreating enemies. This isn't over. Zod won't give up easily. Batman turned to Lois, who had watched the battle unfold from a safe distance. We need to figure out our next move and prepare for whatever Zod has planned. Lois nodded, her expression resolute. We'll be ready. We have to be. The heroes regrouped, knowing that the battle was far from over. But with their combined strengths and determination, they were prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Chapter 24, Battling Against the Kryptonians. Superman braced himself as Feyre launched a lightning-fast punch, which he blocked with his forearm. The impact sent shockwaves through the air, but Superman stood firm. He countered with a powerful uppercut, which Feyre narrowly avoided by twisting mid-air. She retaliated with a spinning kick aimed at his midsection, but Superman caught her leg and threw her back, sending her crashing into a nearby building. Feyre recovered quickly, launching herself at Superman again. The two engaged in a fierce exchange of blows, each strike creating thunderous echoes across the battlefield. Feyre's precision and speed were impressive, but Superman's strength and resilience kept him in the fight. As their battle raged on, Superman grabbed Feyre by the arm and swung her into the ground, creating a crater. He hovered above her, eyes glowing with heat vision. This ends now, Feyre. Before he could unleash his heat vision, a massive figure suddenly emerged from the spaceship and charged at Superman. It was Nami-K, Zod's giant enforcer. His fist, as large as a boulder, swung towards Superman with terrifying speed and force. Out of nowhere, Flash appeared, grabbing Nami-K's fist just in time. Hey, big guy, ever heard of personal space? Flash quipped, holding back Nami-K's punch with a smirk. With a burst of speed, Flash delivered a single, powerful punch to Nami-K's jaw, sending the giant flying several miles away, crashing into the outskirts of the city with a tremendous impact. Superman nodded at Flash in gratitude. Nice timing, Flash. Flash grinned. Just doing my part. Now, let's take these guys down. Feyre, recovering from Superman's throw, stood up and glared at the heroes. You won't stop us. Zod's will is inevitable. Superman landed next to Flash, his eyes still locked on Feyre. We'll see about that. Batman readied himself, glancing at his gauntlet to ensure the kryptonite was firmly in place. He looked at Lois, his expression serious. Go back to the ship. It's time I get a piece of the action. With that, he jumped down and joined Flash and Superman on the battlefield. Nami-K landed beside Feyre, and several other Kryptonians arrived, forming an imposing lineup. Flash, taking in the scene, couldn't resist a quip. Well, this looks like a fun party, he said, grinning. His eyes locked onto Nami-K. Like I said earlier, I'll be taking the big guy. Lightning crackled around Flash, dancing along his body and sparking in his eyes. He vanished from his spot in an instant, and the next moment, Nami-K was sent flying upwards by a powerful punch. Flash, having acquired the super jump skill, leaped into the air and delivered another punch, sending Nami-K hurtling back down to the ground with a tremendous crash. Superman and Batman exchanged surprised glances. I thought he was only fast, Superman remarked, eyes wide. Same here, Batman replied, equally astonished. Flash, with lightning crackling around him, stood ready as Nami-K landed heavily in front of him. The massive Kryptonian sneered, clearly underestimating the speedster. You think you can take me on, little man? Nami-K growled. Flash grinned. Let's see if you can keep up. Nami-K charged, swinging a massive fist. Flash sidestepped effortlessly, leaving after images in his wake. Before Nami-K could react, Flash delivered a rapid series of punches to his midsection, each blow landing with a thunderous impact. Nami-K staggered back, surprised by the speed and power of the attacks. Not bad, Flash quipped, but I'm just getting started. Nami-K roared in frustration and swung again, this time with both fists. Flash dodged, moving at lightning speed to land a powerful uppercut that sent Nami-K reeling. Taking advantage of the opening, Flash dashed around Nami-K, delivering blows from every angle, each strike fueled by his enhanced strength. Nami-K, disoriented and enraged, tried to focus on the blur that was Flash. Stay still, he bellowed, swinging wildly. Flash laughed, his voice a blur as he spoke from multiple directions. Sorry, big guy, that's not really my style. In a burst of speed, Flash launched himself at Nami-K, aiming for a decisive blow. With a powerful leap, he delivered a punch that sent Nami-K flying into the air. The force of the hit echoed through the battlefield, leaving the other combatants momentarily stunned. Flash, not giving Nami-K a chance to recover, followed him into the air using his super jump ability. As Nami-K reached the peak of his ascent, Flash appeared above him, lightning dancing around his fist. Time for you to take a break, he said, delivering a devastating punch that sent Nami-K hurtling back down to the ground, creating a massive crater upon impact. Flash landed gracefully beside the crater, watching as Nami-K struggled to rise, clearly dazed. That should keep you down for a while, Flash said with a satisfied grin. Superman, witnessing the display, couldn't help but be impressed. Nice work, Flash. Flash gave a quick thumbs up before returning to the fray, ready to help his teammates deal with the remaining Kryptonians. The exchange had shown not only his speed but also his strength, making him a force to be reckoned with in the battle against Zod's forces. Feyre snarled, launching herself at Superman with renewed fury. Superman met her head-on, their clash causing shockwaves that rippled through the air. Batman, meanwhile, engaged two of the other Kryptonians, using his agility and the Kryptonite gauntlet to keep them at bay. Batman stood his ground as two Kryptonians approached him, their expressions filled with disdain and overconfidence. He knew he had to be tactical and precise, sheer strength wouldn't be enough to win this fight. As they closed in, Batman activated his Kryptonite gauntlet, the green glow casting an eerie light over his dark suit. The first Kryptonian lunged at Batman with blinding speed, but Batman was ready. He sidestepped the attack and delivered a swift punch with his Kryptonite-infused gauntlet, striking the Kryptonian's ribcage. The alien warrior staggered back, gasping in pain as the Kryptonite's effects took hold. Not so invincible now, are you? Batman taunted, keeping his guard up. The second Kryptonian, seeing his comrade's distress, roared in anger and charged. Batman, using his agility, performed a quick roll to avoid the attack, then sprang up and delivered a powerful kick to the back of the Kryptonian's knee. The alien fell to one knee, and Batman seized the moment to strike again with his gauntlet, this time hitting the Kryptonian in the shoulder. Both Kryptonians, though momentarily weakened, recovered quickly and attacked in unison. Batman found himself dodging and parrying blows from two sides. He used his grappling hook to create distance, firing it at a nearby structure and swinging away just as the Kryptonian's fist smashed into the ground where he had been standing. As he landed, Batman pulled a batarang from his belt and threw it with pinpoint accuracy, hitting the first Kryptonian in the forehead. The projectile was laced with a small amount of kryptonite, causing the alien to reel back in pain and fury. The second Kryptonian, seeing his partner in trouble, renewed his assault on Batman. This time, Batman met him head-on, using his gauntlet to block and counter every attack. He landed a crushing blow to the Kryptonian's jaw, sending him sprawling. Seeing both Kryptonians disoriented, Batman didn't let up. He quickly closed the distance and delivered rapid, precise strikes to each of them, targeting vital points with his Kryptonite gauntlet. The aliens' movements became sluggish as the Kryptonite weakened them further. Just then, one of the Kryptonians managed to grab Batman's arm, squeezing with enough force to crush steel. Batman grimaced in pain but didn't relent. Using his free hand, he pulled a small, cylindrical device from his belt and pressed it against the Kryptonian's neck. A high-pitched sonic blast erupted from the device, disorienting the Kryptonian and forcing him to release Batman. Batman capitalized on the moment, delivering a final, devastating punch to the Kryptonian's chest with his gauntlet. The alien fell back, too weak to continue the fight. The other Kryptonian, seeing his partner down and struggling to remain conscious himself, decided to retreat. He staggered back, his eyes filled with a mixture of anger and fear as he glanced at Batman one last time before flying off. Batman, breathing heavily, watched them go. He glanced at his gauntlet, satisfied to see the kryptonite still intact. As the battle raged on, the teamwork between Superman, Batman, and Flash began to turn the tide. The Kryptonians, though powerful, were being systematically overwhelmed by the coordinated efforts of the heroes. Superman's raw strength and resilience, Batman's strategic acumen and kryptonite weaponry, and Flash's speed and power created a formidable combination. Feyre, realizing the tide was turning against them, called out to her comrades. Fall back, regroup at the ship. The remaining Kryptonians began to retreat, with Feyre and a battered Nami-K providing cover. Flash moved to pursue, but Batman held up a hand. Let them go. We need to regroup ourselves and assess the situation. Superman nodded, his eyes still on the retreating enemies. This isn't over. Zod won't give up easily. Batman turned to Lois, who had watched the battle unfold from a safe distance. We need to figure out our next move and prepare for whatever Zod has planned. Lois nodded, her expression resolute. We'll be ready. We have to be. The heroes regrouped, knowing that the battle was far from over. But with their combined strengths and determination, they were prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Chapter 25, Against Zod. Inside Zod's spaceship, the atmosphere was tense and electric. The defeat on the ground had not gone unnoticed, and the general's fury was palpable. Zod stood before the main control panel, watching the retreating forms of his elite warriors. The holographic display flickered, reflecting his seething rage. Feyre, Zod snapped, his voice echoing through the command center. Report. Feyre appeared on the screen, her expression a mixture of frustration and defiance. General Kall and his allies are proving more formidable than we anticipated. Their combined efforts have significantly hindered our progress. Zod's eyes blazed with anger. Excuses? I gave you the finest warriors of Krypton, and you come back to me with excuses. Nami-K, bruised but unbroken, stepped into view beside Feyre. They possess technology and weaponry that exploits our weaknesses, General. The one called Batman wields kryptonite. Kryptonite, Zod muttered, his face darkening further. We underestimated their resourcefulness. But no more. He turned to his lieutenants, his voice cold and commanding. Prepare the ship's main cannon. Target key cities across this planet. If Kall will not surrender the Codex, we will force his hand by obliterating his precious Earth. The lieutenants scrambled to execute his orders, their movements precise and efficient. Zod returned his gaze to the screen, where Earth loomed large and vulnerable. Kall, he whispered to himself, you will see the futility of your defiance. This world will burn unless you comply. Back on Earth, Superman, Batman, Flash, and Lois gathered in their makeshift command center. Suddenly, alarms blared as the skies above darkened. Zod's spaceship descended, casting an ominous shadow over the city. The ship's weapons systems activated, targeting critical infrastructure. Inside the ship, Zod stood before the main console, his gaze fixed on Earth's cities displayed on the holographic map. Begin the attack, he ordered. Energy beams lanced out from the ship, striking major cities across the globe. The ground shook with the force of the explosions, and chaos erupted in the streets. Superman took to the air, his voice ringing with authority. Zod, this ends now. Zod's voice boomed from the ship's speakers. Kall, surrender the Codex, or I will reduce this planet to ashes. Superman hovered, his eyes blazing with determination. You'll have to go through me first. The battle for Earth had escalated to its final stage. The heroes, undeterred by the odds, prepared to confront Zod's overwhelming force. The survival of humanity depended on their courage and their ability to outthink and outfight the relentless Kryptonian general. As the chaos unfolded, Batman activated the Batmobile's remote control, guiding it to their location. Superman, we need to neutralize the ship's weapons. Flash, can you create a diversion? Flash nodded, already vibrating with anticipation. Consider it done. Superman turned to Batman. I'll take care of the ship's main cannon. Can you handle the ground forces? Batman smirked. I've got a few tricks up my sleeve. Lois watched them, her heart pounding. Be careful, all of you. Superman gave her a reassuring nod before taking off towards the spaceship. Flash zipped through the streets, creating chaos and confusion among Zod's forces, while Batman readied his kryptonite weaponry. In the sky, Superman reached the ship and unleashed his heat vision on the cannon, attempting to disable it. Zod's lieutenants quickly responded, sending out drones to intercept him. Superman soared towards the spaceship, his eyes burning with determination. As he reached the ship and began to disable the cannon with his heat vision, an alarm blared inside the vessel. General, Kall is attacking the main cannon, one of Zod's lieutenants reported. Zod's expression hardened. Deploy all forces. I will deal with Kall myself. Zod stepped out of the ship, his eyes scanning for his nemesis. Below, Feyre and Nami-K launched themselves into the air, heading straight for Superman. Before they could join the fray, a blur of red and yellow intercepted them. Flash, moving at incredible speed, delivered rapid punches that momentarily disoriented them. Sorry, folks, Flash quipped, but Kall's dance card is full. As Flash engaged Feyre and Nami-K, Batman faced off against the remaining Kryptonians. He activated his new suit, built by Flash, which was more advanced and durable, infused with kryptonite for maximum effectiveness. The suit gleamed with a metallic sheen, its design reminiscent of the one he used when he fought Superman, but this one was sleeker and more powerful. Alright, let's see what this baby can do, Batman muttered, flexing his gauntlet hands as the suit hummed to life. The Kryptonians attacked, their speed and strength formidable. Batman moved with agility, blocking and countering their blows with precision. His suit's enhanced capabilities allowed him to withstand their attacks and strike back with kryptonite-infused punches that weakened his foes. Dash. In the sky, Zod closed in on Superman, his eyes filled with rage. KALL, he roared, charging at him with blinding speed. Superman turned just in time to brace for the impact. The force of their collision sent shockwaves through the air. Zod's fists pummeled Superman, but he fought back with equal ferocity, their punches creating sonic booms that echoed across the battlefield. You can't win, Zod, Superman grunted, blocking a powerful punch. This planet is my home. I will protect it. Zod sneered, his eyes glowing with fury. You are deluded, KALL. This planet is doomed unless you surrender the Codex. Superman retaliated with a powerful uppercut, sending Zod reeling. I will never let you destroy Earth. Dash. Meanwhile, Flash continued to keep Feyre and Namike at bay. His speed and agility made it difficult for them to land a hit. He used his super speed to deliver a flurry of punches, each one weakening his opponents. You're fast, but not fast enough, Feyre hissed, lunging at him. Flash dodged effortlessly, his movements a blur. And you're tough, but not tough enough, he shot back, delivering a powerful punch that sent Feyre crashing into a nearby building. Namike roared in anger and charged at Flash. Flash smirked, his eyes crackling with lightning. Round 2, big guy. Using his enhanced speed and strength, Flash delivered a series of rapid blows that disoriented Namike, finishing with a powerful kick that sent the giant flying. Dash. On the ground, Batman's new suit proved its worth. The remaining Kryptonians, though strong, struggled against the advanced technology and kryptonite-infused weaponry. Batman moved with calculated precision, using his gadgets and combat skills to exploit their weaknesses. One Kryptonian lunged at Batman, but he sidestepped and delivered a crippling blow to the alien's side. Another tried to flank him, but Batman deployed a barrage of kryptonite-tipped batarangs, each one hitting its mark and causing the Kryptonians to stagger back in pain. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the heroes were gaining the upper hand. Superman and Zod's clash reached a fever pitch, their blows shaking the very earth beneath them. Flash continued to outmaneuver Feyre and Namike, his speed and strategy proving too much for them to handle. Batman's relentless assault on the remaining Kryptonians showcased his tactical genius and the power of his new suit. Zod, realizing the tide was turning against him, unleashed a final, desperate attack on Superman. He channeled all his rage and strength into a single, devastating punch aimed at Superman's heart. Superman, summoning every ounce of his power, caught Zod's fist and held it. This ends now, Zod, Superman said, his voice steady. With a surge of strength, Superman pushed Zod back and delivered a knockout punch that sent the general crashing to the ground, bleeding from his mouth. Chapter 26, It's over, Zod. Zod lay on the ground, momentarily stunned by Superman's punch. Blood dripped from his mouth, but his resolve remained unbroken. With a growl, he forced himself to stand, his eyes blazing with renewed fury. He would not be defeated so easily. Slowly, Zod began to remove his armor, piece by piece. As each segment fell away, his body absorbed the full rays of the sunlight, invigorating him with a new surge of strength. His muscles bulged, and his eyes glowed with an intense, fiery determination. This isn't over, KALL, Zod spat, his voice dripping with venom. Superman watched warily as Zod shed his armor, realizing the general was drawing power from the sun. He braced himself for the renewed assault, his own strength bolstered by his sheer will to protect Earth. With a roar, Zod launched himself at Superman with blinding speed. He delivered an earth-shattering punch that caught Superman off guard, sending him flying several miles across the city. Buildings crumbled and streets cracked under the force of his impact. Superman crashed into the ground, creating a massive crater. He groaned in pain but quickly forced himself to his feet, his eyes blazing with power. He couldn't afford to let Zod continue his rampage. Zod did not let Superman catch his breath. He flew at breakneck speed and punched him once again, sending Superman crashing into another building. Before Superman could recover, Zod was upon him, delivering punch after punch with relentless fury. Each blow felt like a sledgehammer, pushing Superman to his limits. You are weak, KALL. Zod roared, his fists a blur of motion. You will never defeat me. Superman struggled to block Zod's onslaught, his mind racing to find a way to turn the tide. Drawing on his inner reserves, he managed to catch one of Zod's punches. With a surge of strength, he blasted Zod with his heat vision, sending the general staggering back. You underestimate me, Zod, Superman said, his voice filled with resolve. I will not let you destroy my home. Zod's eyes narrowed, and he unleashed his own heat vision in retaliation. The two beams clashed in midair, creating a blinding explosion of energy that shook the battlefield. Both combatants strained against each other, their faces contorted with effort. With a sudden burst of speed, Zod flew around the beam struggle, closing the distance between them. He tackled Superman at full force, sending them both hurtling through the air. They crashed into the ground, creating a massive shockwave that flattened everything in the vicinity. Superman and Zod grappled, their superhuman strength matched evenly. They traded blows, each hit sending shockwaves that echoed for miles. Superman's punches were powerful, but Zod's raw, unrestrained fury made him a relentless opponent. Zed grabbed Superman by the throat and flew upward at incredible speed, dragging him through the atmosphere. He hurled Superman into the upper stratosphere, then followed with a devastating double-fisted blow that sent Superman plummeting back to Earth. As Superman fell, he twisted in midair and used his heat vision to slow his descent. He landed heavily but managed to stay on his feet. Zed was already descending upon him, fists blazing with energy. Superman countered with his freeze breath, encasing Zed in a thick layer of ice. For a moment, it seemed like the tide had turned. But Zed, with a roar, shattered the ice with a powerful burst of energy, sending shards flying in all directions. He flew at Superman with renewed ferocity, their fists clashing once more. The battle raged on, taking them through city streets, into the skies, and even into the ocean. Superman used every trick he knew, super speed punches, heat vision, freeze breath, and his unmatched strength. Zed countered with his own array of powers, matching Superman blow for blow. Superman grabbed Zed and threw him into the ocean. Zed rose out of the water, unleashing a massive wave that crashed against the city. Superman used his freeze breath to turn the wave into ice, preventing it from causing further destruction. Zed flew at Superman, tackling him into the ground. They grappled, rolling, and trading blows with relentless intensity. Zed's eyes glowed with malevolent energy, and he unleashed a point-blank blast of heat vision that sent Superman flying. Superman crashed into a building, the impact shaking its foundations. He emerged from the rubble, his eyes blazing with determination. He flew at Zed, tackling him into the sky. They soared upward, punching and grappling, their fight reaching new heights of intensity. As they ascended into the upper atmosphere, Superman unleashed a powerful punch that sent Zed reeling. Zed retaliated with a vicious uppercut, sending Superman spinning through the air. Superman righted himself and charged at Zed, his fists glowing with energy. The two titans collided, their punches creating shockwaves that rippled through the atmosphere. They grappled, their strength evenly matched. Zed's face contorted with rage, while Superman's eyes burned with determination. "You will not win, Zed," Superman said, his voice steady despite the strain. Zed sneered, his grip tightening. "We shall see, KALL." With a final burst of strength, Superman broke Zed's grip and delivered a devastating punch that sent the general hurtling back to Earth. Zed crashed into the ground, creating a massive crater. Superman followed, landing heavily but ready for the final confrontation. Zed slowly rose from the crater, his eyes blazing with fury. "This isn't over, KALL." Superman stood his ground, his fists clenched. "It ends now, Zed." With a roar, Zed charged at Superman, his fists blazing with energy. Superman met him head-on, their punches creating shockwaves that shattered windows and shook buildings. The ground trembled under the force of their clash. Superman ducked under one of Zed's punches and delivered a powerful uppercut that sent the general reeling. He followed with a series of rapid punches, each one driving Zed back. Zed fought back with equal ferocity, but Superman's determination was unyielding. With a final, powerful punch, Superman sent Zed crashing to the ground. The general lay still, his body battered and broken. Superman stood over him, his chest heaving with exertion. "It's over, Zed," Superman said, his voice filled with finality. Chapter 26, It's over, Zed. Zed lay on the ground, momentarily stunned by Superman's punch. Blood dripped from his mouth, but his resolve remained unbroken. With a growl, he forced himself to stand, his eyes blazing with renewed fury. He would not be defeated so easily. Slowly, Zed began to remove his armor, piece by piece. As each segment fell away, his body absorbed the full rays of the sunlight, invigorating him with a new surge of strength. His muscles bulged, and his eyes glowed with an intense, fiery determination. "This isn't over, KALL," Zed spat, his voice dripping with venom. Superman watched warily as Zed shed his armor, realizing the general was drawing power from the sun. He braced himself for the renewed assault, his own strength bolstered by his sheer will to protect Earth. With a roar, Zed launched himself at Superman with blinding speed. He delivered an earth-shattering punch that caught Superman off guard, sending him flying several miles across the city. Buildings crumbled and streets cracked under the force of his impact. Superman crashed into the ground, creating a massive crater. He groaned in pain but quickly forced himself to his feet, his eyes blazing with power. He couldn't afford to let Zed continue his rampage. Zed did not let Superman catch his breath. He flew at breakneck speed and punched him once again, sending Superman crashing into another building. Before Superman could recover, Zed was upon him, delivering punch after punch with relentless fury. Each blow felt like a sledgehammer, pushing Superman to his limits. "You are weak, KALL," Zed roared, his fists a blur of motion. "You will never defeat me." Superman struggled to block Zed's onslaught, his mind racing to find a way to turn the tide. Drawing on his inner reserves, he managed to catch one of Zed's punches. With a surge of strength, he blasted Zed with his heat vision, sending the general staggering back. "You underestimate me, Zed," Superman said, his voice filled with resolve. "I will not let you destroy my home." Zed's eyes narrowed, and he unleashed his own heat vision in retaliation. The two beams clashed in midair, creating a blinding explosion of energy that shook the battlefield. Both combatants strained against each other, their faces contorted with effort. With a sudden burst of speed, Zed flew around the beam struggle, closing the distance between them. He tackled Superman at full force, sending them both hurtling through the air. They crashed into the ground, creating a massive shockwave that flattened everything in the vicinity. Superman and Zed grappled, their superhuman strength matched evenly. They traded blows, each hit sending shockwaves that echoed for miles. Superman's punches were powerful, but Zed's raw, unrestrained fury made him a relentless opponent. Zed grabbed Superman by the throat and flew upward at incredible speed, dragging him through the atmosphere. He hurled Superman into the upper stratosphere, then followed with a devastating double-fisted blow that sent Superman plummeting back to Earth. As Superman fell, he twisted in midair and used his heat vision to slow his descent. He landed heavily but managed to stay on his feet. Zed was already descending upon him, fists blazing with energy. Superman countered with his freeze breath, encasing Zed in a thick layer of ice. For a moment, it seemed like the tide had turned. But Zed, with a roar, shattered the ice with a powerful burst of energy, sending shards flying in all directions. He flew at Superman with renewed ferocity, their fists clashing once more. The battle raged on, taking them through city streets, into the skies, and even into the ocean. Superman used every trick he knew, super speed punches, heat vision, freeze breath, and his unmatched strength. Zed countered with his own array of powers, matching Superman blow for blow. Superman grabbed Zed and threw him into the ocean. Zed rose out of the water, unleashing a massive wave that crashed against the city. Superman used his freeze breath to turn the wave into ice, preventing it from causing further destruction. Zed flew at Superman, tackling him into the ground. They grappled, rolling, and trading blows with relentless intensity. Zed's eyes glowed with malevolent energy, and he unleashed a point-blank blast of heat vision that sent Superman flying. Superman crashed into a building, the impact shaking its foundations. He emerged from the rubble, his eyes blazing with determination. He flew at Zed, tackling him into the sky. They soared upward, punching and grappling, their fight reaching new heights of intensity. As they ascended into the upper atmosphere, Superman unleashed a powerful punch that sent Zed reeling. Zed retaliated with a vicious uppercut, sending Superman spinning through the air. Superman righted himself and charged at Zed, his fists glowing with energy. The two titans collided, their punches creating shockwaves that rippled through the atmosphere. They grappled, their strength evenly matched. Zed's face contorted with rage, while Superman's eyes burned with determination. "You will not win, Zed," Superman said, his voice steady despite the strain. Zed sneered, his grip tightening. "We shall see, KALL." With a final burst of strength, Superman broke Zed's grip and delivered a devastating punch that sent the general hurtling back to Earth. Zed crashed into the ground, creating a massive crater. Superman followed, landing heavily but ready for the final confrontation. Zed slowly rose from the crater, his eyes blazing with fury. "This isn't over, KALL." Superman stood his ground, his fists clenched. "It ends now, Zed." With a roar, Zed charged at Superman, his fists blazing with energy. Superman met him head-on, their punches creating shockwaves that shattered windows and shook buildings. The ground trembled under the force of their clash. Superman ducked under one of Zed's punches and delivered a powerful uppercut that sent the general reeling. He followed with a series of rapid punches, each one driving Zed back. Zed fought back with equal ferocity, but Superman's determination was unyielding. With a final, powerful punch, Superman sent Zed crashing to the ground. The general lay still, his body battered and broken. Superman stood over him, his chest heaving with exertion. "It's over, Zed," Superman said, his voice filled with finality. Chapter 27, Flash gets rid of Feyre and Nami-K. As Superman stood over Zed, victorious but weary, the battle below raged on. Flash faced off against Feyre and Nami-K, his usual light-hearted demeanor replaced by a focused intensity. The speedster was determined to put an end to their threat once and for all. Feyre and Nami-K, their armor battered and bloodied, snarled at Flash. They charged at him, their fists blazing with energy. Flash smirked and, in a burst of speed, dodged their attacks effortlessly, leaving afterimages in his wake. "Come on, you two," Flash taunted, his voice echoing around them. "Is that the best you've got?" Feyre swung at him, but Flash ducked and delivered a rapid series of punches to her midsection, each blow cracking her armor further. Nami-K roared and lunged at him, but Flash sidestepped and struck him with a powerful kick that sent the hulking Kryptonian sprawling. "You guys really need to work on your speed," Flash quipped, zipping around them in a blur of red and yellow. "This is getting embarrassing." Feyre and Nami-K tried to coordinate their attacks, but Flash was too fast, darting between them and landing punch after punch. Each hit sent shockwaves through their bodies, tearing their armor and splattering blood across their faces. Despite their resilience, the relentless assault was taking its toll. Flash paused for a moment, his eyes narrowing as he assessed his opponents. "All right, time to finish this." With a sudden burst of speed, Flash created a speed mirage, splitting into multiple versions of himself. Feyre and Nami-K, disoriented and unable to distinguish the real Flash from the afterimages, lashed out in all directions, their movements growing increasingly desperate. In a final, coordinated strike, Flash's speed mirage surrounded the two Kryptonians. He delivered simultaneous blows from all directions, each punch infused with the full force of his super speed. Feyre and Nami-K were lifted off their feet, their bodies twisted and broken by the onslaught. Flash came to a stop, his real self standing at the center of the devastation. He watched as Feyre and Nami-K, now unrecognizable, their armor shattered and their bodies bloodied, crumpled to the ground. "Sorry, folks," Flash said quietly, his tone somber. "But this is where it ends." With a final, blinding burst of speed, Flash struck both Feyre and Nami-K at the same time. The impact was cataclysmic, a shockwave of energy that blasted them to pieces. The battlefield was silent for a moment, the air heavy with the aftermath of the brutal clash. Flash stood amidst the debris, his chest heaving with exertion. He glanced around, his gaze settling on the fallen forms of his foes. "It's over," he said to himself, his voice barely a whisper. Superman watched in shock as the pieces of Feyre and Nami-K scattered across the battlefield. He descended slowly to where Flash stood amidst the debris, his expression stern and troubled. "Was that necessary, Barry?" Superman asked, his voice tinged with disapproval. "Did you have to kill them?" Flash looked up at Superman, his eyes hard and unyielding. "Yes, Clark. It was necessary. Sometimes, you have to put an end to your enemies for good. Leaving them alive just means they'll come back and cause more harm." Superman's frown deepened. "We don't have the right to decide who lives and who dies. That's not our role." Flash shook his head, his voice growing more intense. "Maybe it should be. Look at Zod lying there. If I were you, I'd finish him off. But that's not my call to make." With that, Flash turned and walked away, leaving Superman to ponder his words. Batman, who had been listening from a distance, approached Superman, his own face reflecting the weight of Flash's argument. "I heard what Flash said," Batman said quietly. "He's not entirely wrong. There are times when sparing an enemy can lead to more destruction and death." Superman turned to Batman, his eyes searching his friend's face. "Are you reconsidering your no-kill rule, Bruce?" Batman looked away, his jaw clenched. "I've always believed in justice without killing. But sometimes the lines get blurred. We have to find a balance between mercy and necessity." Superman sighed, the burden of leadership heavy on his shoulders. "I understand the dilemma, but taking a life should never be our first choice. It's a path that can lead to darkness." Batman nodded slowly. "I know. But we also can't ignore the consequences of letting some of these enemies live." The two heroes stood in silence, the aftermath of the battle weighing heavily on their minds. They knew that the choices they made now would shape the future, not just for themselves, but for the world they swore to protect. Superman looked back at Zod, who lay unconscious and defeated. "We need to find a way to secure Zod and ensure he never threatens Earth again. Killing him isn't the answer." Batman placed a hand on Superman's shoulder. "We'll find a way. Together." As they prepared to deal with the aftermath and secure Zod, Flash watched from a distance, his mind wrestling with his own decisions. He knew he had done what he believed was right, but he couldn't help but wonder about the path he had chosen. The heroes had won the battle, but the war for their ideals and the protection of their world was far from over. Each step they took from this point on would be fraught with difficult choices and the ever-present question of what it truly meant to be a hero. Chapter 28, Mission completed. Flash cleared the battlefield at lightning speed, gathering the debris and ensuring the area was safe for any remaining civilians. He moved with precision, his mind still heavy with the recent events. As he worked, he couldn't shake the feeling that this battle had changed something fundamental in their team dynamics. Batman approached Zod's unconscious form, producing a set of kryptonite handcuffs from his utility belt. He carefully secured Zod's wrists and ankles, ensuring the general couldn't escape. Moving methodically, he did the same to the other remaining Kryptonians, rendering them powerless. Superman, meanwhile, took to the skies with the spaceship Zod had used to come to Earth. The massive vessel was heavy, but Superman's strength made the task manageable. He flew it to his fortress of solitude, intending to study it further and ensure it posed no future threat. Lois Lane stood on the sidelines, her notepad and recorder in hand, ready to document the aftermath of the battle. She watched as the heroes worked, her mind already formulating the questions she would ask in the interviews. As Superman returned from his mission, Lois approached him, her eyes reflecting a mix of concern and admiration. "Clark," she began, her voice steady, "can we talk about what just happened?" Superman nodded, his expression softening at the sight of Lois. "Of course, Lois. What do you need to know?" Before she could respond, Batman joined them, having finished securing the Kryptonians. Flash appeared beside them, his work done. The three heroes formed an imposing presence, each lost in their thoughts. Lois took a deep breath and began her interview. "First, I want to commend you all for your bravery. But I have to ask what happened with Feyre and Nami-K? Flash, you took a drastic step." Flash met Lois's gaze, his face serious. "I did what I thought was necessary, Lois. They were too dangerous to leave alive." Superman interjected, his voice calm but firm. "We need to find a balance, Barry. Taking lives shouldn't be our first resort." Lois turned to Batman. "Bruce, your thoughts?" Batman glanced at Superman, then back at Lois. "It's a complicated issue, Lois. We need to protect people, but we also need to uphold our principles. Sometimes, those goals conflict." Lois nodded, jotting down notes. "And what about Zod? What's the plan for him?" Superman spoke up. "I've taken his ship to the Fortress of Solitude. We need to ensure he can't use it to harm anyone else. For now, he'll be held in a secure location." Lois's next question was directed at Flash. "Barry, do you regret your decision?" Flash looked down for a moment, then met her eyes. "I don't regret it, Lois. But I do understand the weight of it. It's not something I'll take lightly." The interview continued, with Lois probing the heroes' thoughts and decisions. Each answer added depth to the story she would write, a story that would capture the complexity of their roles as protectors of Earth. As the sun set, the heroes stood together, a united front despite the day's challenges. They knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but they were committed to facing it together, their resolve stronger than ever. Lois closed her notebook, her mind already racing with how to frame the narrative. She knew this story would be one for the ages, a testament to the hero's strength, resolve, and humanity. As the final rays of the sun dipped below the horizon, Flash approached Batman and Superman, a resolute look on his face. "It's time for me to head back to Central City," he said, his voice steady but laced with underlying tension. Batman nodded, his eyes narrowing in understanding. "You have your own battles to fight, Barry." Superman placed a hand on Flash's shoulder. "Stay safe, Barry. And remember, we're here if you need us." Flash offered a small smile, appreciating their support. "Thanks, guys. I won't be gone long, but there's something I need to take care of, someone who needs to be stopped for good." Without further explanation, Flash turned and sped off, a streak of red and yellow disappearing into the distance. He raced towards Central City, his thoughts focused on the task ahead. Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, and it was time to put an end to his reign of terror. As Flash sped towards Central City, a sudden ding sounded in his head. Curious, he slowed down and saw a system notification appear in his mind, detailing the successful completion of his recent mission. Objective *. Team up with Superman to stop General Zod from invading Earth. This mission involves high-level combat, strategic planning, and utilizing the full range of your abilities alongside Superman's strength and powers. Quest details *. Threat origin *. General Zod, a Kryptonian warlord, is planning to invade Earth with a formidable army. Zod's goal is to conquer the planet and transform it into a new Krypton. Allies * Superman and Batman. Neutralize Zod *. Work with Superman and Batman to defeat Zod and prevent the activation of any world-altering devices he might deploy. Time limit *. 1 month to prepare, mobilize, and successfully repel the invasion. Reward *. Experience points, XP 2000. Currency * 200 credits. Special ability unlock, Kryptonian adaptation. Item * Phantom Zone Projector. Bonus reward * Advanced Vehicle Speed Force Striker. Reward explanation * 2000 XP *. Successfully completing this quest will provide Barry with a substantial boost in experience points, propelling him closer to higher levels and unlocking further potential upgrades for his abilities. 200 credits *. These credits can be used in the soon-to-be-unlocked shop, allowing Barry to purchase items, upgrades, or new abilities that will aid him in future missions and battles. Special ability unlock, Kryptonian adaptation *. Description * This ability grants Barry temporary enhancements that mimic some aspects of Kryptonian physiology when in proximity to a Kryptonian, such as Superman. Advantages * Enhanced strength * Significant increase in physical strength, allowing Barry to handle heavier objects and deliver more powerful attacks. Durability * Increased resistance to physical damage, making Barry more resilient in combat. Enhanced senses * Improved senses, such as vision and hearing, for better situational awareness and detection of hidden threats. Energy absorption * Ability to absorb and temporarily store solar energy, enhancing speed and power during battles. Item, Phantom Zone Projector *. Description * A device capable of banishing targets to the Phantom Zone, an alternate dimension used as a prison for Kryptonian criminals. Advantages *. Containment * Effective means of neutralizing powerful foes without killing them. Versatility * Can be used strategically to remove threats from the battlefield or secure dangerous entities. Bonus reward, Advanced Vehicle Speed Force Striker *. Description * A state-of-the-art vehicle designed for high-speed travel and combat support. Features * Speed and agility * enhanced to match Barry's speed, allowing for rapid transportation and maneuverability. Stealth mode * Advanced cloaking technology for covert operations. Combat capabilities * Equipped with non-lethal weaponry for defense and subduing enemies. Support systems * Contains medical supplies, advanced communication tools, and tech for various mission support functions. A smile spread across his lips. The mission had been a success, and the rewards were significant. With these new abilities, the Phantom Zone Projector, and the Speed Force Striker, he felt more prepared than ever to protect his city and the world. As he continued on his way to Central City, he couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of purpose. Reaching Star Labs, Flash prepared to face the challenges ahead, ready to continue his fight for justice with newfound strength and resources. Chapter 28, Mission completed. Flash cleared the battlefield at lightning speed, gathering the debris and ensuring the area was safe for any remaining civilians. He moved with precision, his mind still heavy with the recent events. As he worked, he couldn't shake the feeling that this battle had changed something fundamental in their team dynamics. Batman approached Zod's unconscious form, producing a set of kryptonite handcuffs from his utility belt. He carefully secured Zod's wrists and ankles, ensuring the general couldn't escape. Moving methodically, he did the same to the other remaining Kryptonians, rendering them powerless. Superman, meanwhile, took to the skies with the spaceship Zod had used to come to Earth. The massive vessel was heavy, but Superman's strength made the task manageable. He flew it to his fortress of solitude, intending to study it further and ensure it posed no future threat. Lois Lane stood on the sidelines, her notepad and recorder in hand, ready to document the aftermath of the battle. She watched as the heroes worked, her mind already formulating the questions she would ask in the interviews. As Superman returned from his mission, Lois approached him, her eyes reflecting a mix of concern and admiration. "Clark," she began, her voice steady, "can we talk about what just happened?" Superman nodded, his expression softening at the sight of Lois. "Of course, Lois. What do you need to know?" Before she could respond, Batman joined them, having finished securing the Kryptonians. Flash appeared beside them, his work done. The three heroes formed an imposing presence, each lost in their thoughts. Lois took a deep breath and began her interview. "First, I want to commend you all for your bravery. But I have to ask what happened with Feyre and Nami-K? Flash, you took a drastic step." Flash met Lois's gaze, his face serious. "I did what I thought was necessary, Lois. They were too dangerous to leave alive." Superman interjected, his voice calm but firm. "We need to find a balance, Barry. Taking lives shouldn't be our first resort." Lois turned to Batman. "Bruce, your thoughts?" Batman glanced at Superman, then back at Lois. "It's a complicated issue, Lois. We need to protect people, but we also need to uphold our principles. Sometimes, those goals conflict." Lois nodded, jotting down notes. "And what about Sid? What's the plan for him?" Superman spoke up. "I've taken his ship to the Fortress of Solitude. We need to ensure he can't use it to harm anyone else. For now, he'll be held in a secure location." Lois's next question was directed at Flash. "Barry, do you regret your decision?" Flash looked down for a moment, then met her eyes. "I don't regret it, Lois. But I do understand the weight of it. It's not something I'll take lightly." The interview continued, with Lois probing the heroes' thoughts and decisions. Each answer added depth to the story she would write, a story that would capture the complexity of their roles as protectors of Earth. As the sun set, the heroes stood together, a united front despite the day's challenges. They knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but they were committed to facing it together, their resolve stronger than ever. Lois closed her notebook, her mind already racing with how to frame the narrative. She knew this story would be one for the ages, a testament to the heroes' strength, resolve, and humanity. As the final rays of the sun dipped below the horizon, Flash approached Batman and Superman, a resolute look on his face. "It's time for me to head back to Central City," he said, his voice steady but laced with underlying tension. Batman nodded, his eyes narrowing in understanding. "You have your own battles to fight, Barry." Superman placed a hand on Flash's shoulder. "Stay safe, Barry. And remember, we're here if you need us." Flash offered a small smile, appreciating their support. "Thanks, guys. I won't be gone long, but there's something I need to take care of, someone who needs to be stopped for good." Without further explanation, Flash turned and sped off, a streak of red and yellow disappearing into the distance. He raced towards Central City, his thoughts focused on the task ahead. Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, and it was time to put an end to his reign of terror. As Flash sped towards Central City, a sudden ding sounded in his head. Curious, he slowed down and saw a system notification appear in his mind, detailing the successful completion of his recent mission. Objective **. Team up with Superman to stop General Zod from invading Earth. This mission involves high-level combat, strategic planning, and utilizing the full range of your abilities alongside Superman's strength and powers. Quest details *. Threat origin *. General Zod, a Kryptonian warlord, is planning to invade Earth with a formidable army. Zod's goal is to conquer the planet and transform it into a new Krypton. Allies * Superman and Batman. Neutralize Zod * work with Superman and Batman to defeat Zod and prevent the activation of any world-altering devices he might deploy. Time limit *. 1 month to prepare, mobilize, and successfully repel the invasion. Reward *. Experience points, XP 2000. Currency * 200 credits. Special ability unlock, Kryptonian adaptation. Item * Phantom Zone Projector. Bonus reward * Advanced Vehicle Speed Force Striker. Reward explanation * 2000 XP *. Successfully completing this quest will provide Barry with a substantial boost in experience points, propelling him closer to higher levels and unlocking further potential upgrades for his abilities. 200 credits *. These credits can be used in the soon-to-be-unlocked shop, allowing Barry to purchase items, upgrades, or new abilities that will aid him in future missions and battles. Special ability unlock, Kryptonian adaptation *. Description *. This ability grants Barry temporary enhancements that mimic some aspects of Kryptonian physiology when in proximity to a Kryptonian, such as Superman. Advantages *. Enhanced strength *. Significant increase in physical strength, allowing Barry to handle heavier objects and deliver more powerful attacks. Durability *. Increased resistance to physical damage, making Barry more resilient in combat. Enhanced senses *. Improved senses, such as vision and hearing, for better situational awareness and detection of hidden threats. Energy absorption * Ability to absorb and temporarily store solar energy, enhancing speed and power during battles. Item, Phantom Zone Projector *. Description *. A device capable of banishing targets to the Phantom Zone, an alternate dimension used as a prison for Kryptonian criminals. Advantages *. Containment *. Effective means of neutralizing powerful foes without killing them. Versatility * Can be used strategically to remove threats from the battlefield or secure dangerous entities. Bonus reward, Advanced Vehicle Speed Force Striker *. Description *. A state-of-the-art vehicle designed for high-speed travel and combat support. Features *. Speed and agility * enhanced to match Barry's speed, allowing for rapid transportation and maneuverability. Stealth mode * advanced cloaking technology for covert operations. Combat capabilities * equipped with non-lethal weaponry for defense and subduing enemies. Support systems * contains medical supplies, advanced communication tools, and tech for various mission support functions. A smile spread across his lips. The mission had been a success, and the rewards were significant. With these new abilities, the Phantom Zone Projector, and the Speed Force Striker, he felt more prepared than ever to protect his city and the world. As he continued on his way to Central City, he couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of purpose. Reaching Star Labs, Flash prepared to face the challenges ahead, ready to continue his fight for justice with newfound strength and resources. Chapter 29, Confession. Barry sped through the streets of Central City, a blur of red and yellow streaking past familiar landmarks. The city was still bustling, unaware of the battles and sacrifices made to ensure its safety. As he approached Star Labs, he slowed down, his mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. Entering Star Labs, Barry found Cisco and Caitlin sitting in the control room, deep in conversation. Wells, or rather Eobard Thawne, was in the time vault shouting angrily and pounding on the glass, demanding their attention. "Get rid of me? You don't understand what you're dealing with." Thawne's voice echoed through the lab, but Cisco and Caitlin paid him no mind, focusing instead on their discussion. Barry cleared his throat, and both Cisco and Caitlin looked up, relief washing over their faces. "Barry!" Caitlin exclaimed, rushing over to hug him. "We were so worried." "Cisco, Caitlin," Barry greeted warmly as Caitlin pulled away from the hug. Cisco flashed a big smile, clapping Barry on the back. "Man, you were all over the news. The Flash, Superman, and Batman saving the world from a Kryptonian invasion? That was epic." Caitlin nodded enthusiastically. "You were incredible, Barry. Fighting alongside two other heroes like that, it must have been awesome." Barry smiled, his spirits lifting from their praise. "Thanks, guys. It was a tough battle, but we managed to pull through. We couldn't have done it without working together." Before they could continue, Thawne's voice cut through the air, still shouting from the time vault. "You think this is over, Barry? I'll find a way out, and when I do." Barry turned to face Thawne, his expression hardening. "Enough, Eobard. You're not getting out of there. Not unless you keep screaming like that." Thawne's eyes blazed with fury. "You underestimate me, Barry. I'll find a way." Barry cut him off, his voice steady. "No, you won't. We're going to make sure of it." Thawne paused, his eyes narrowing as he assessed Barry's resolve. "What if I can help you save your mother, Barry?" His voice took on a deceptively soothing tone. "All you have to do is let me out, and I'll show you how." Cisco and Caitlin were caught off guard, their eyes darting to Barry, searching for any sign of wavering. But Barry remained as calm as ever, his gaze steady on Thawne. "I was going to let you out either way," Barry replied, his voice unwavering. "But not because of saving my mother. I want you to make a confession, Eobard. You need to confess to killing my mother so my father can be released. That's all I want." Thawne's expression flickered with surprise, quickly replaced by a cunning smirk. "And you think I'll just confess, just like that? You're more naive than I thought, Barry." Barry took a step closer to the glass, his eyes locked with Thawne's. "You will, because deep down, you know this is the only way you'll get out of there. We can play this game, Eobard. But remember, I'm the one with the power to make the rules now." Cisco and Caitlin exchanged uneasy glances, but they stood firm, backing Barry's decision. Thawne's smirk faded, replaced by a calculating look as he weighed his options. "I'll need assurances," Thawne said slowly, trying to regain control of the conversation. "How do I know you'll honor your word?" Barry's expression didn't change. "You'll have my word, and the word of everyone here. But know this, Eobard, any attempt to escape, and you'll find yourself right back where you started, or worse." Thawne sighed, feigning resignation. "Fine. I'll do it. But I hope you understand, Barry, this changes nothing between us." Barry nodded. "I understand perfectly. Now, let's get started." As Cisco and Caitlin prepared to record Thawne's confession, Barry couldn't help but feel the weight of the moment. This was the first step towards justice for his family, and he was determined to see it through, no matter the cost. Cisco set up the cameras and equipment, his movements precise and efficient. Caitlin brought over a microphone, ensuring everything was ready to capture Thawne's confession clearly. Barry watched, his eyes never leaving Thawne, whose expression was a mix of defiance and resignation. "All set," Cisco said, stepping back and giving Barry a nod. Barry turned to Thawne, his voice steady. "All right, Eobard. It's time." Thawne rolled his eyes but stepped forward, his face illuminated by the harsh light of the camera. He took a deep breath, glancing at Barry before beginning. "My name is Eobard Thawne," he started, his voice dripping with disdain. "Many years from now, the Flash and I become enemies." Barry remained stoic, urging Thawne to continue with a slight nod. "And I traveled back in time to kill him," Thawne went on. "But I failed. I killed an innocent woman instead who was caught in the crossfire." Cisco and Caitlin exchanged looks, the gravity of the confession sinking in. "I framed Henry Allen for the murder," Thawne continued, his tone almost bored. "An innocent man went to prison because of me. The confession continued, detailing the events that led to Nora Allen's death and Henry Allen's wrongful imprisonment. Thon's voice never wavered, each word a knife twisting in Barry's heart. But he stood firm, knowing this was the path to justice. When Thon finished, there was a moment of heavy silence. Barry finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you," Thon sneered. "Don't thank me yet, Barry. This changes nothing between us." Barry nodded, signaling Cisco to stop the recording. "It changes everything for my father." With the confession recorded, Cisco and Caitlin began the process of preparing the evidence to present to the authorities. Barry took one last look at Thon, his resolve unwavering. "You'll stay here until my father is released," Barry said, turning to leave. "And then we'll decide what to do with you." Thon's laughter followed him out of the room, but Barry didn't look back. He had taken the first step towards justice, and nothing Thon could say would deter him now. A/N. Just decided to use this medium to let those who love the omnipotent system that I have began rewriting it, and I am going to release the chapters tonight and would like you all to support me by adding it to your collection. Chapter 30, Joe Meets Thon. Barry called Joe as he left the time vault, the weight of Thon's confession still heavy on his mind. The phone rang twice before Joe picked up. "Barry, it's good to hear your voice," Joe said warmly. "Are you back in Central City?" "Yeah, Joe, I'm back. And I have something that might get Dad out of prison," Barry replied, his voice filled with cautious hope. There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Barry," Joe said, his tone serious. "I know you want to believe it, but you need to let this go. Your father killed your mother. There's no supernatural being with lightning involved." Barry sighed, the frustration and sadness evident in his voice. "Joe, you have to believe me. What I saw that night was real. And now, with everything happening in Central City, you have to know there's more out there than we ever imagined." Joe remained silent for a moment, and Barry could sense his skepticism. He realized it was time to reveal the truth, to show Joe that he was the man behind the mask. "Joe, there's something I need to tell you. Can you stay where you are?" "I'll come to you," Barry said, determination in his voice. "Sure, I'm at home," Joe replied, still sounding unconvinced. "But Barry, this better not be some wild goose chase." Barry smiled, though Joe couldn't see it. "Hold on tight, Joe. You're about to experience one hell of a ride." Before Joe could respond, Barry took off at super speed, racing through the city streets. He reached Joe's house in mere seconds, finding him sitting on the couch with his phone still pressed to his ear. Barry couldn't resist a bit of fun. He disconnected Joe's call, switched his phone to camera mode, and took a picture of Joe's surprised face all in slow motion. Then, in a blur of red and yellow, he whisked Joe off his feet and sped back to Star Labs. Joe barely had time to register what was happening before they arrived. As Barry set him down gently, Joe looked around in shock, trying to process the whirlwind journey. "Barry, what the hell just happened?" Joe asked, breathless and wide-eyed. Barry smiled, finally ready to reveal his secret. "Joe, I'm the Flash." Joe's eyes widened even further as he looked at Barry, then at Cisco and Caitlin, who nodded in confirmation. The pieces started to fall into place, and Joe's disbelief slowly turned into understanding. "You're the Flash," Joe repeated, his voice filled with a mix of astonishment and realization. Barry nodded. "Yeah, Joe. And I need you to believe me," Thon confessed. "We have it all on record. He killed Mom, not Dad. We can finally clear Dad's name." Joe took a deep breath, trying to absorb the flood of information. "Barry, how is this possible? How did you become the Flash?" Cisco, unable to contain his excitement, jumped in. "It all started with a particle accelerator explosion, Joe. It released dark matter, creating a storm that struck Barry with lightning. The dark matter bonded with his cells, giving him super speed." Joe blinked, still trying to wrap his mind around it. "So, you were in Metropolis, saving the world with Batman and a red-capped alien flying in the air." Barry nodded, a hint of a smile on his face. "Superman, yes. We teamed up to stop a Kryptonian invasion." From the Time Vault, Eobard Thawne scoffed, his voice dripping with disdain. "Superman? More like super alien." Joe turned his attention to Eobard Thawne, his expression a mix of confusion and anger. "So, Harrison Wells is the man who killed your mother?" Caitlin stepped forward, her voice steady. "Yes and no, Joe. His real name is Eobard Thawne. He's from the future and hates Barry to the core. He even named himself the Reverse Flash, the opposite of everything Barry stands for." Joe's eyes widened further in disbelief. "Thawne? As in Eddie Thawne, my current partner?" Barry nodded. "Yes, Joe. Eddie is the ancestor of my nemesis. Eobard Thawne came back in time to destroy everything I care about." Joe took a deep breath, trying to process the information. "So, Eddie's connected to this, to everything." Barry placed a reassuring hand on Joe's shoulder. "Eddie doesn't know any of this. He's a good man, Joe. He has nothing to do with Eobard's actions." Cisco's eyes lit up with an idea. "Wait, doesn't that mean killing Eddie would get rid of Eobard?" Barry shook his head, his expression grave. "Yes and no, Cisco. Killing Eddie would only get rid of the current Eobard now, but he's from the future and has already infected himself throughout the time stream. Getting rid of this one would just bring another one. There's no end to him." Joe looked between Barry and Cisco, trying to grasp the implications. "So, even if we stop this Eobard, another will come? How do we fight something like that?" Barry sighed. "It's complicated, Joe, but for now, we have what we need to free Dad." We need to focus on that and deal with OVERPOWERED as he comes. Caitlin stepped forward, her voice firm. We'll figure it out, Joe. We always do. Right now, the most important thing is getting Henry out of prison. Joe nodded slowly, the weight of the situation settling on his shoulders. All right, Barry. Let's get this confession to the authorities and get your father out of there. Barry smiled, relieved to have Joe's support. Thank you, Joe. This means everything to me. From the time vault, OVERPOWERED Thawne watched them with a smirk. Enjoy your little victory, Barry. It's far from over. Barry glanced back at Thawne, his resolve unshaken. We'll be ready for whatever comes next, OVERPOWERED. Count on it. With the confession recorded and their plan set, they prepared to present the evidence and finally bring justice to Barry's family. A/N. Just decided to use this medium to let those who love the omnipotent system that I have began rewriting it, and I am going to release the chapters tonight and would like you all to support me by adding it to your collection. Chapter 31, Speed Force Striker. Joe handed the evidence to the district attorney, who reviewed it meticulously. With Thawne's confession corroborating Barry's claims, the DA moved swiftly. Within hours, the paperwork was processed, and Henry Allen's release was arranged. As the news reached the Central City Police Department, a squad was dispatched to apprehend Harrison Wells, known to them now as OVERPOWERED Thawne. The officers surrounded Star Labs, preparing for what could be a challenging arrest. Meanwhile, Barry made his way back to the time vault. He opened it, letting OVERPOWERED out. Thawne moved with lightning speed, trying to pin Barry in the hall. However, Barry was faster, catching him and pinning him to the wall in an instant. OVERPOWERED laughed, his voice filled with sinister amusement. You're faster than I could have possibly imagined, Barry. Which means my ticket back home is assured. So, why don't you send me back home or stick around and play hero a little longer? Barry let go of Thawne without saying a word, his expression unreadable. He turned and started to walk away, his silence speaking volumes. Thawne's laughter echoed through the hall, growing louder and more maniacal as realization dawned on him. You've agreed to my proposal, haven't you, Barry? Thawne taunted, his voice dripping with mockery. Barry continued to walk away, not looking back. Thawne's laughter reached a fever pitch. He donned his reverse flash suit, his eyes glowing an intense, menacing red. See you, Flash, Thawne said, his voice filled with triumph. In a blur of red lightning, he sped away, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. As Barry reached the exit of the time vault, Joe and Cisco met him, their faces filled with concern and confusion. What happened, Barry? Joe asked, worry evident in his voice. Barry took a deep breath, struggling to keep his emotions in check. He's gone, Joe. I let him go. Cisco's eyes widened in shock. What? Why? Barry looked at his friends, his face a mix of determination and resignation. Because this isn't the end. Thawne is a part of the timeline, and trying to erase him could do more harm than good. We need to be ready for whatever he throws at us next. Joe frowned, not fully understanding what Barry meant, but he trusted him enough to let it go. All right, Barry, he said, pulling out his phone and calling off the CCPD officers positioned outside Star Labs. But you better have a plan. Barry nodded, acknowledging Joe's trust. He then left Star Labs, heading straight for Iron Heights to wait for his father's release. An hour later, Henry Allen walked through the gates of Iron Heights, a free man for the first time in years. Barry was there to greet him, his face lighting up with joy as he saw his father step out. Barry, Henry said, his voice filled with emotion as he embraced his son. I can't believe this is finally happening. Barry hugged his father tightly, feeling a mix of relief and happiness. It's real, Dad. You're free. We're going home. They spent the drive back to their house reminiscing about the past, sharing memories of better times. Henry recounted stories of Barry's childhood, while Barry filled him in on all that had happened since his imprisonment. Remember that time we went camping and you tried to catch that fish with your bare hands? Barry said, laughing. Henry chuckled. I remember you laughing at me the whole time. You were always such a good kid, Barry. I'm so proud of the man you've become. Barry smiled, his heart swelling with pride. I couldn't have done it without you, Dad. You always believed in me, even when I doubted myself. They continued to talk, their bond growing stronger with each shared memory. As they pulled up to their house, Barry felt a sense of completeness he hadn't felt in a long time. Welcome home, Dad, Barry said, helping Henry out of the car. Henry looked around, taking in the familiar surroundings. It's good to be home, Barry. Thank you for never giving up on me. Barry nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. We'll get through everything together, Dad. No matter what. As they stepped inside, the warmth of their reunion filled the house. Barry knew that while the battle with Thawne was far from over, having his father back was one of the best things that happened to him. Thawne sped through the city, his mind racing with anger and frustration. He hadn't anticipated Barry catching him so quickly, and now he had to rethink his strategy. He came to a stop in a secluded warehouse, his mind churning with thoughts of revenge and escape. He no longer had Gideon to rely on, which only added to his frustration. Damn that AI, Thawne muttered. I can't believe it betrayed me. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to think clearly. He knew he had to leverage the one thing Barry cared about more than anything else, his mother, Nora Allen. Without Gideon's help, Thawne needed to rely on his own cunning and knowledge of the timeline. If I can manipulate the timeline just right, I can use Nora's death as leverage, he thought. Barry would do anything to save his mother. Thawne began to formulate a plan. He knew he needed to lure Barry into a situation where he had no choice but to cooperate. He also had an ace up his sleeve, something that could tilt the scales in his favor. Barry wants to send me back to the future, Thawne muttered to himself. I don't know if it is one of his ruse, but if that's the case, I can make him an offer he would never say no to. Weeks later. Weeks passed, and life in Central City gradually returned to its usual rhythm. Barry resumed his duties as a CSI, tirelessly working cases by day and donning his suit as the Flash whenever he is needed. During this time, he apprehended several metahumans, each encounter reinforcing his decision to protect his city. Despite the daily grind, the looming threat of Thawne lingered in the back of his mind. One evening, after a particularly challenging day at the precinct, Barry found himself at Star Labs. The team had gone home for the night, leaving him alone in one of the vast, open spaces of the lab. This was the perfect time to delve into the rewards he had earned from his mission in Metropolis. He accessed the system interface that only he knew about, navigating to his inventory. Among the items listed, one stood out, the Speed Force Striker. With a thought, he selected it, and a sleek, futuristic jet materialized in front of him. The Speed Force Striker was a marvel of engineering and design. Its exterior was a shimmering mix of red and gold, reminiscent of Barry's suit. The jet was streamlined and aerodynamic, clearly built for speed. It had a compact, yet powerful look, with sharp angles and an aggressive stance. The cockpit was enclosed in a transparent canopy, providing a full view of the surroundings. Barry walked around the jet, taking in every detail. This thing looks like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie, he murmured to himself. He climbed into the cockpit, feeling a surge of energy as the jet responded to his presence. The controls were intuitive, and the displays provided real-time feedback on the jet's systems. It's more than just fast, Barry thought. This jet is powered by the Speed Force. It's designed to harness and amplify my abilities. He accessed the jet's systems, reading off the specifications. It had enhanced speed and agility, cloaking capabilities, advanced weaponry, and even a mini-lab for on-the-go analysis. It was a game-changer. Barry activated the jet's systems, feeling a surge of power as it came to life. Time for a test run, he said, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. With that, the Speed Force Striker lifted off the ground smoothly, exiting the lab through one of the specially designed exits for larger equipment. Taking to the skies, Barry felt the rush of wind and the thrill of speed as he pushed the jet to its limits. This is incredible, I have my own flash jet. A/N. Just decided to use this medium to let those who love the omnipotent system that I have began rewriting it, and I am going to release the chapters tonight and would like you all to support me by adding it to your collection. Chapter 32, Meeting Someone Unexpected. Barry felt exhilarated as the Speed Force Striker soared through the night sky. He put the jet through its paces, testing its speed, maneuverability, and various systems. The response was flawless, a perfect blend of speed and technology that resonated with his abilities as the Flash. After a satisfying test flight, Barry returned the jet to Star Labs, landing it smoothly in one of the larger hangar bays. The next morning, Barry gathered the team at Star Labs. Caitlin, Cisco, Joe, and even Henry were there, curiosity etched on their faces. Barry had kept his new acquisition a secret, wanting to reveal it at the right moment. Thanks for coming, everyone, Barry said, a smile playing on his lips. I've got something to show you. Cisco raised an eyebrow. You've been keeping secrets, haven't you, Barry? Barry chuckled. You'll see. Follow me. He led them to the hangar bay, where the Speed Force Striker was waiting. As they entered, gasps of amazement filled the air. Barry, what is that? Caitlin asked, her eyes wide with awe. This, Barry said, gesturing to the jet, is the Speed Force Striker. It's a new addition to our arsenal, and it's going to make a huge difference in how we handle threats in Central City. The team approached the jet, their expressions a mix of wonder and excitement. Henry placed a hand on Barry's shoulder. Son, this is incredible. How did you get this? It's a long story, Dad, Barry said with a smile. But it's here now, and I want to show you all what it can do. He opened the canopy, revealing the sleek, advanced cockpit. Who wants to go for a ride? Cisco's hand shot up immediately. I'm in. This thing looks like it could outrun anything. Barry laughed. All right, Cisco. Climb in. There's plenty of room for everyone. One by one, the team climbed into the cockpit, finding seats designed for comfort and utility. The interior was spacious, with advanced displays and controls that seemed almost intuitive. Barry, this is amazing, Iris said, settling into her seat. It feels like we're in the future. That's because we are, Barry replied, taking the pilot's seat. This jet is powered by the Speed Force, and it's designed to enhance our abilities. Let me show you what it can do. He activated the systems, and the jet hummed to life, the displays lighting up with information. First, let's take a look at the cloaking capabilities. Barry pressed a button, and the jet shimmered, disappearing from sight. The team looked around in awe as the jet remained invisible, the outside world visible through the transparent canopy. This is incredible, Joe said, his voice filled with admiration. We could use this to sneak up on any threat. Barry nodded. Exactly. Now, let's take it for a spin. He guided the jet out of the hangar bay, lifting it smoothly into the air. The team watched as Central City spread out below them, the lights twinkling like stars. Hold on tight, Barry said, a grin on his face. He accelerated, and the jet responded instantly, the city becoming a blur as they soared through the sky. Wow, Cisco exclaimed, gripping his seat. This thing is fast. I mean, really fast. Barry laughed. You haven't seen anything yet. Let's test the agility. He guided the jet through a series of maneuvers, twisting and turning with precision. The Speed Force striker handled it effortlessly, the team cheering as they experienced the thrill of high-speed flight. After a few minutes, Barry leveled out and brought the jet back to Star Labs, landing it smoothly. The team disembarked, their faces alight with excitement. Barry, this is a game changer, Caitlin said, her eyes shining. With this, we can handle anything Thawne throws at us. Agreed, Joe added. This jet gives us an edge we didn't have before. Henry hugged Barry, pride evident in his eyes. I'm so proud of you, son. You've come a long way. Barry smiled, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. We've all come a long way, and with this jet, we're going to protect Central City better than ever. He turned to the team, his expression serious. Thawne is still out there, and he's not going to stop. But with the Speed Force striker, we have a chance to stay one step ahead. Caitlin nodded, determination in her eyes. We're in this together, Barry. No matter what. Thanks, everyone, Barry said, feeling the support of his friends and family. Let's get to work. We have a lot to do. Later that day, under the shadow of a crumbling bridge, a homeless man stirred from his slumber. His clothes were tattered, and his face was gaunt, etched with the lines of a hard life. The night air was chilly, and he huddled deeper into his threadbare blanket, trying to find some semblance of warmth. His eyes, dulled by fatigue and hardship, scanned his surroundings. It was then that he saw her, a woman walking with a determined stride, her mind seemingly focused on her destination. There was something about her that caught his attention, a flicker of recognition that stirred in the foggy recesses of his memory. Who is she? He wondered, his heart quickening. She brought him a strange sense of peace, a feeling he hadn't known in a long time. He tried to remember where he knew her from, but his thoughts were murky, fragmented by time and the hardships he had endured. As he watched, a group of men appeared from the shadows, moving with predatory intent. They surrounded the woman, their intentions clear and malicious. Without thinking, the man pushed himself to his feet, a surge of protective instinct rising within him. Leave her alone, he shouted, his voice hoarse from disuse. The thugs laughed, dismissing him as just another homeless vagrant. But as he stepped closer, something remarkable happened. His hair ignited, burning with a fierce, golden flame. His eyes turned white, glowing with a supernatural intensity. Flames erupted from his hands, crackling with energy and power. The attackers recoiled in fear, their bravado evaporating in the face of this unexpected threat. The man lunged at them, flames dancing from his fists as he fought with a strength and ferocity that seemed otherworldly. The thugs had no chance, they scattered, leaving the woman unharmed. Breathing heavily, the man turned to her, his fiery aura gradually subsiding. The woman's eyes widened in astonishment, recognition dawning on her face. Ronnie, she whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of disbelief and hope. A/N. Just decided to use this medium to let those who love the omnipotence system that I have began rewriting it, and I am going to release the chapters tonight and would like you all to support me by adding it to your collection. Chapter 33, Firestorm Matrix. Later that day, the team gathered at Star Labs, their attention focused on the infirmary where Caitlin was attending to the man she believed to be Ronnie. He lay on a bed, strapped down with a metadampener suppressing his powers. Despite Caitlin's best efforts to calm him, the man was fuming with rage, struggling against his restraints. This isn't right, he shouted, his voice filled with anger and frustration. You can't keep me here against my will. Caitlin sighed, her expression a mix of concern and determination. Please, try to understand. We need to make sure you're okay. You've been missing for so long, and we have to figure out what happened to you. The man glared at her, his eyes blazing with intensity. I don't care. I told you I didn't want to come here. This place, it feels familiar, but it's also wrong. I need to get out of here. Barry stepped forward, trying to defuse the situation. We just want to help you. We're your friends. Whatever happened, we can figure it out together. His struggle intensified, the metal restraints creaking under the pressure. Friends? You call this helping? I don't even remember half of you. All I know is that I don't want to be here. Joe, standing off to the side, exchanged a worried glance with Henry. We need to calm him down, or he might hurt himself. Cisco was already at his console, tapping furiously at the keys. I'm working on it. I'm trying to adjust the dampener so it's not as restrictive. Maybe that will help him feel less trapped. Caitlin placed a gentle hand on his arm, her eyes pleading. Please, just give us some time. We can help you. I promise. For a moment, his expression softened, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. Caitlin, Before he could finish, he closed his eyes, his face contorted with frustration. I'm not Ronnie. The room fell silent. Caitlin stepped back, shock evident on her face. What do you mean? You look just like him. I don't know who you think I am, but I'm not Ronnie, he said, his voice strained. I don't even remember my own name, but I know I'm not him. Barry and the others exchanged concerned looks. This was an unexpected twist, and it only deepened the mystery. Joe spoke up, his voice calm and steady. All right, let's take a step back. If you're not Ronnie, we still want to help you figure out who you are and what happened to you. But you need to work with us. The man's breathing slowed, his struggles lessening. The room was tense, the team holding their collective breath as they waited for his response. Finally, he nodded, a reluctant acceptance. Fine, he said, his voice calmer but still laced with frustration. But I'm not staying here forever. I need answers, and I need my freedom. Caitlin gave him a relieved smile, squeezing his arm gently. We'll get you those answers. Just hang in there. Cisco finished his adjustments and looked up. I've reduced the dampener's intensity. He should feel more comfortable now. The man exhaled, the tension in his body easing slightly. Thank you, he muttered, his eyes closing as exhaustion overtook him. As the team watched over him, a sense of unity and determination settled in the room. They had faced countless challenges before, but this was personal. They were going to help him, no matter what it took. Barry turned to the team, his expression resolute. All right, everyone. Let's get to work. We need to find out who he is and how we can help him. We owe him that much. With renewed purpose, the team dispersed, each member ready to do whatever it took to bring their mysterious guest back from the brink. And as they worked, the man slept, the storm within him momentarily quelled by the presence of those who cared for him. Barry, already knowing the true identity of the man on the bed, made his way to the lab's computer terminal. He began sifting through old security footage and archived data, determined to find the evidence he needed. His fingers flew over the keyboard as he navigated through the files until he finally found the video he was looking for. Everyone, come here. I think I've found something, Barry called out. The team gathered around the screen as Barry played the footage. The video showed Professor Martenstein walking towards Star Labs, a determined expression on his face. In the background, the ominous hum of the particle accelerator growing louder. Then, the explosion happened. A brilliant flash of light and energy erupted from the accelerator, sending shockwaves through the city. In the chaos, a figure that looked like Ronnie but was enveloped in the particle accelerator's energy collided with Professor Stein. The collision caused another explosion, smaller but just as intense. The video showed Stein and Ronnie merging, the firestorm matrix at the heart of the fusion. When the light faded, it was Ronnie's body that lay on the ground, but the presence behind those eyes was unmistakably Professor Stein. The video ended, leaving the room in stunned silence. Professor Stein, Barry said quietly, turning to the man on the bed. You were fused with Ronnie when the particle accelerator exploded. You're not just Ronnie, you're both of them, but you are more of Professor Stein than Ronnie, just using his body. The man on the bed, who they had believed to be Ronnie, stared at the screen, his eyes wide with realization. He shook his head slowly, trying to process the information. No, that can't be, he whispered, his voice trembling. I'm not Ronnie. I'm Martenstein. Caitlin's eyes filled with tears. Professor Stein, we thought you were gone. But you're here. You've been here all along. Stein nodded slowly, the pieces of his fractured memory starting to come together. It explains so much. The confusion, the conflicting memories. I've been trying to reconcile two different lives. Barry stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. We're going to help you, Professor. We'll find a way to separate you and Ronnie, to make you both whole again. Cisco, who had been silent, spoke up. We have the Firestorm Matrix. If Chapter 34, Quantum Splicer. Cisco leaned against his console, deep in thought. The task ahead of them was daunting, but the team had faced impossible odds before. He had a few ideas, but they needed to be refined and tested. We need to stabilize the Firestorm Matrix, Cisco said, his voice thoughtful. If we can isolate the energy signatures of both Stein and Ronnie, we might be able to create a device to separate them. Caitlin, who had been monitoring the readings from their patient, approached with a tablet in hand. Here are Ronnie's Stein's readings. They're complicated, to say the least. The fusion has created a unique energy pattern that's unlike anything we've seen before. Cisco examined the data, his mind racing. We need to create a quantum stabilizer that can separate the merged signatures. It will need to be precise, down to the atomic level. Henry, standing nearby, chimed in. I remember reading some of Stein's papers on quantum entanglement. If we can create a device that can manipulate these quantum states, we might have a chance. Caitlin nodded, excitement building. We'll need to combine Stein's research with what we know about the particle accelerator and the Firestorm Matrix. If we can generate a controlled quantum field, it might be enough to separate them. Cisco's eyes lit up. We can use the tech we have here at Star Labs. We'll need to design something from scratch, something that can handle the complexities of this fusion. Henry looked thoughtful. We'll also need to consider the energy requirements. The initial fusion was triggered by a massive energy release. We'll need something similar to reverse it, but controlled. Caitlin agreed. We could modify the particle accelerator to provide a controlled energy burst. It would be risky, but it might work. Cisco rubbed his chin. We'll need to create a containment field to keep the energy focused on Stein and Ronnie. If the energy disperses, we could lose them both. The team fell silent, each lost in their own thoughts, considering the magnitude of the task. Finally, Caitlin broke the silence. We need to start working on the quantum stabilizer immediately. Cisco, can you handle the design and implementation? Cisco nodded. I'll get started right away. I'll need to review Stein's papers and integrate his theories with our existing technology. It's going to be a challenge, but we can do it. Henry placed a reassuring hand on Caitlin's shoulder. We'll figure this out, Caitlin. You always do. Barry returned from his patrol, his eyes scanning the room for updates. Any progress? Caitlin smiled, though the worry was still evident in her eyes. We have a plan. It's risky, but it's our best shot. Barry nodded, his expression determined. Then let's get to work. We owe it to both Stein and Ronnie to bring them back. Over the next few days, the team worked tirelessly. Cisco immersed himself in the design of the quantum stabilizer, spending hours poring over Stein's research and integrating it with Star Labs technology. Caitlin and Henry focused on preparing the particle accelerator for the controlled energy burst, ensuring every calculation was precise. As the device began to take shape, the tension in the lab grew. They knew the risks, but they also knew it was their best chance to save their friends. Finally, the day arrived. The quantum stabilizer was ready, and the particle accelerator had been modified to deliver the necessary energy burst. The team gathered in the lab, their nerves taut with anticipation. Barry addressed the team, his voice steady. "This is it, everyone. We've done everything we can. Now we just have to trust in our work and in each other." Caitlin approached the man on the bed, her expression a mix of hope and anxiety. "Professor Stein, we're ready. Are you?" Stein nodded, his resolve clear. "Let's do this." The team moved into position, and Cisco activated the quantum stabilizer. A hum filled the air as the device powered up, creating a shimmering field around Stein. "Here we go," Cisco said, his voice tense. Activating the particle accelerator, now. A surge of energy flowed through the lab, channeled through the modified particle accelerator and into the quantum stabilizer. The field around Stein intensified, crackling with power. For a moment, it seemed as if nothing was happening. Then, a blinding light enveloped the room. The energy field pulsed, and Stein's body began to split, two distinct forms emerging from the fusion. Barry watched with bated breath as the forms solidified. When the light faded, two figures lay on the bed, Ronnie and Professor Stein, both unconscious but breathing. "We did it," Caitlin whispered, tears of relief streaming down her face. "We really did it." Cisco let out a whoop of triumph, and Henry placed a comforting arm around Caitlin. "You did it, Caitlin. You brought them back." Barry looked at his friends, pride swelling in his chest. "We all did it. Together." Barry looked over at his father, Henry, who was smiling with a rare expression of happiness and pride. Seeing his father's joy, Barry felt a surge of determination. He had always wanted to save his mother, but the fear of causing another flashpoint had held him back. However, seeing what the team had accomplished today, he began to wonder if there might be a way to achieve the impossible without disastrous consequences. As the team celebrated their success, Barry quietly slipped away to his lab. He needed to think, to draft a plan that could allow him to go back in time and save his mother without altering the timeline. Barry sat at his desk, surrounded by stacks of papers and old blueprints. He opened his laptop and began reviewing the data from the night of his mother's murder. He needed to find a way to intervene without creating a paradox or changing the timeline in a way that would lead to another flashpoint. He studied every detail of that fateful night, looking for the precise moment he could change events without causing a ripple effect. His thoughts raced as he considered the possibilities. If he could isolate the exact moment when his mother was attacked, he might be able to save her without disrupting the flow of time. Barry's mind wandered back to the various techniques they had used to separate Stein and Ronnie. The concept of precision, of isolating quantum states, resonated with him. If he could apply the same principles to time travel, he might have a chance. Chapter 35, Going to the Past 1. Barry sat at his desk, surrounded by stacks of papers and old blueprints. He opened his laptop and began reviewing the data from the night of his mother's murder. He needed to find a way to intervene without creating a paradox or changing the timeline in a way that would lead to a flashpoint. He studied every detail of that fateful night, looking for the precise moment he could change events without causing a ripple effect. His thoughts raced as he considered the possibilities. If he could isolate the exact moment when his mother was attacked, he might be able to save her without disrupting the flow of time. Barry's mind wandered back to the various techniques they had used to separate Stein and Ronnie. The concept of precision, of isolating quantum states, resonated with him. If he could apply the same principles to time travel, he might have a chance. As Barry fought metahumans across Central City, he continued to refine his strategy. His encounters with the villains became more frequent and intense. One night, he found himself face to face with Leonard Snart, a notorious criminal known as Captain Cold. Barry had learned that Snart had acquired a prototype cold gun, a weapon capable of generating intense cold and ice. The confrontation was not intense. Snart, with his signature smirk, aimed the cold gun at Barry. "So, the Scarlet Speedster finally shows up?" Snart taunted. "You think you can stop me?" Barry's eyes narrowed. "I don't just think it, Snart. I know it." With lightning speed, Barry disarmed Snart, taking the cold gun prototype from him. Snart barely had time to react before he was out cold, waking up later in a prison cell in Iron Heights. The next challenge came from Snart's partner, Mick Rory, who had obtained a hot gun capable of producing flames. Together, Snart and Rory, as Captain Cold and Heat Wave, attempted to stop the Flash. However, Barry was too fast for them. In a matter of moments, both were disarmed and defeated, waking up in the same prison cell in Iron Heights, unsure of how they had been beaten. Throughout these encounters, Barry continued to protect Central City, fighting metahumans who used their abilities for evil. His reputation as the Flash grew, and Central City knew they had a hero who would stop at nothing to protect them. Meanwhile, Martin Stein and Ronnie Raymond discovered that their separation was not permanent. They needed to merge periodically to stabilize their condition, thus becoming Firestorm. Barry, using his knowledge and skills, re-engineered the quantum splicer to help them merge safely and effectively. Together as Firestorm, Stein, and Ronnie became valuable allies in protecting Central City. Barry's relentless pursuit of justice continued. He fought metahumans who used their abilities for evil, ensuring they were brought to justice. His reputation as the Flash grew, and Central City knew they had a hero who would stop at nothing to protect them. One evening, after a long day of fighting crime, Barry was running at super speed on his way back to Star Labs. Suddenly, the Reverse Flash, Bird Thawne, appeared, trying to corner him. But Barry, with his enhanced perception and combat abilities, used his incredible speed to swiftly pin Thawne against a nearby wall. Thawne laughed, a cold, mocking sound that echoed through the empty street. "You are really fast," he said, his eyes glinting with malicious amusement. "I don't have to worry anymore about you not meeting up with speed." Barry's grip tightened, but he remained silent, his eyes locked onto Thawne's. Thawne's laughter subsided, but a smile remained on his face. "I just wanted to let you know that I'm done with my preparations, and it is all on you now. So when are you going to decide to save your mother? Right now? Or never?" Barry's jaw clenched, but he didn't say anything more than, "Follow me?" With that, Barry took off, racing back to Star Labs. Thawne smiled before following Barry, the chase exhilarating him. Inside Star Labs, the atmosphere was tense as Barry and Thawne arrived. The team was on high alert, their eyes flicking between Barry and the man who had caused them so much pain. Barry took a deep breath and stepped forward, addressing his friends. "I know this is hard to believe, but we need Thawne's help to save my mother," Barry began. "I've thought this through 1,000 times, and this is the only way to ensure we don't create a paradox or a flashpoint. I trust all of you with my life, and I hope you can trust me on this." Caitlin, Cisco, and Joe exchanged uneasy glances. Caitlin was the first to speak. "Barry, we trust you. But this is Thawne we're talking about. He's not exactly known for his altruism." Cisco nodded in agreement. "Yeah, the guy waited years just to make sure you gained your powers so he could use you for his own plans. Who knows what else he's capable of." Joe placed a reassuring hand on Barry's shoulder. "Son, we're with you. But we need to keep our eyes open. Thawne's always got something up his sleeve." Thawne stood back, his smirk never fading, watching the exchange with amusement. "Touching. But we don't have time for sentimentality. Every moment we waste is another chance for history to unravel." Barry nodded, his resolve unwavering. "I understand your concerns, and I don't trust him either. But this is the only way." Just then, Henry Allen approached Barry, calling him to a corner of the room. He looked his son in the eyes, concern etched on his face. "Barry, are you sure about this? You're risking everything, including your own life." Barry took a deep breath, meeting his father's gaze. "Dad, I've thought about this every day since it happened. If there's a chance I can save Mom and not destroy the timeline, I have to try. I can't live with myself if I don't." Henry sighed, then pulled Barry into a tight hug. "I respect your decision, son. Just promise me you'll be careful." Barry nodded, feeling a surge of determination. "I will, Dad. I promise." They returned to the group, and Barry turned to Thawne. "All right, let's get started." A few minutes later, Barry and Thawne stood in the particle accelerator chamber, the hum of the machinery filling the air. Thawne activated the tachyon device he had been using to increase his speed, and the air crackled with energy. The plan was simple: use the particle accelerator to generate enough speed for Barry to travel back in time. As the machine powered up, Barry could feel the energy coursing through him. He glanced at Thawne, who was watching him with a mix of anticipation and impatience. "Remember, Barry," Thawne said, his voice carrying a sinister edge. "You only get one shot at this. Don't screw it up." Barry nodded, his determination unwavering. He stepped onto the track, the energy building around him. He focused on the moment, on the exact time he needed to reach to save his mother. Barry started running around the particle accelerator chamber, the force of his speed building with each step. The team watched in awe as he easily passed Mach 2, then approached Mach 3. The air around him crackled with energy, and the ground seemed to vibrate with the intensity of his movements. Suddenly, another flash of lightning appeared within the chamber, causing everyone to gasp in confusion. It was another Barry, his time remnant. Thawne's eyes narrowed, a mix of confusion and intrigue crossing his face. He had an inkling of what Barry might be up to, but he couldn't be sure. "Barry, what are you doing?" Caitlin shouted over the noise of the particle accelerator. The real Barry, still running, did not respond. Instead, he focused on the plan he had devised. He had created a time remnant to help execute his strategy without Thawne fully understanding his intentions. The time remnant moved in sync with the real Barry, their combined speed generating even more power. Inside the speed force, Barry saw the events of the timeline flash before his eyes. He focused intently on the specific night his mother died, pinpointing the exact moment he needed to reach. The images of that fateful night burned in his mind as he pushed himself faster. Back in the control room, Stein turned to Cisco. "Now, Cisco, inject the hydrogen particles." Cisco nodded and quickly activated the mechanism, releasing the hydrogen particles into the particle accelerator. The particles collided with Barry, creating a blinding flash of light and energy. A wormhole began to form, its swirling vortex growing larger and more intense by the second. Barry's time remnant ran alongside him, ready to play its part. Thawne watched with a mixture of amazement and concern, still trying to piece together Barry's plan. As the wormhole stabilized, both Barry and his time remnant took off, heading directly into the vortex. Chapter 36, Going to the Past 2. Barry and his time remnant emerged on the street outside his childhood home on the night of his mother's death. The familiar sounds of the night, the distant hum of traffic, and the rustling of leaves created an eerie backdrop to the impending tragedy. Barry's heart pounded as he focused on the mission, knowing he had only moments to act. He looked at his time remnant, who returned his gaze with a determined nod. "For Mother," the time remnant said, his voice resolute. With a swift motion, he activated the facial transmogrification device, his features morphing until he looked exactly like Nora Allen. Before they could even process the transformation, a blur of yellow and red lightning streaked past them. The Reverse Flash and the Future Flash, clad in his futuristic armor suit, had already arrived. The sight of them blitzing through the night prompted Barry and his time remnant to follow suit. Barry took off in a burst of speed, the force of his acceleration propelling him forward. His time remnant, now appearing as Nora, followed closely behind. They chased after the two speedsters, the streetlights casting long, flickering shadows as they raced. The battle was already in full swing when they reached the center of the conflict. The Future Flash was engaged in a fierce struggle with the Reverse Flash, their movements too fast for the human eye to follow. Sparks flew as they clashed, the air crackling with the energy of their speed. In a breathtaking maneuver, the Future Flash suddenly broke away from the fight, a blur as he sped into the house. His mission was clear: save the younger Barry. He scooped up the terrified child and, with a speed that even Thawne couldn't process, whisked him away to safety in an instant, effectively teleporting out of sight. Infuriated by his sudden loss, Thawne's eyes blazed with rage. He turned his attention to the next closest target, Nora. Barry, who was not far away, looked at his time remnant. They exchanged a determined nod, understanding the gravity of what they were about to do. Using his connection to the still force, Barry brought time to a complete stop. The world around him froze in a moment of surreal calm. Even Thawne was caught in the stillness, but Barry knew it wouldn't last long. He had mere seconds to act. In that suspended moment, Barry dashed forward, reaching his mother and gently lifting her from the ground. As he carried her away from the house, his time remnant took her place, seamlessly assuming the role of Nora to maintain the timeline's appearance. Barry ran with his mother through the frozen streets, his mind racing with the enormity of what he was doing. He knew he had to get her to safety, far away from the chaos that had enveloped their home. He headed toward Fawcett City, Philadelphia, a place he knew would be safe for her. The journey seemed both instantaneous and eternal, the streets blurring past them as Barry sped through the night. He finally stopped in a quiet, secluded area of Fawcett City. The still force's grip on time eased, allowing the world to resume its natural flow. Barry gently set his mother down, her eyes wide with confusion and fear. "Who are you? What's happening?" she asked, her voice trembling. Barry took a deep breath, his heart aching with the knowledge that he couldn't reveal his true identity. "I'm here to help you. You're safe now," he said gently. "Please, listen carefully. You can't go back to Central City. It's not safe for you there." Nora looked at him, her eyes searching for answers. "But my son, Barry." "He will be fine," Barry interrupted, his voice filled with a conviction that he hoped would reassure her. "Trust me. He will be taken care of, and you will see him again. But for now, you need to stay here, in Fawcett City. It's important." Nora's eyes welled up with tears, a mix of confusion and fear etched on her face. "But why? Why is this happening?" Barry swallowed hard, struggling to keep his emotions in check. "There are things happening that you can't understand right now, but it's all to keep you safe. I promise you, everything will be okay. In 14 years, I'll come for you, and you'll see your son again." Nora nodded slowly, though her confusion remained. 14 years. "Yes," Barry confirmed. 14 years. "Trust in that. Trust in me." He knew he couldn't stay any longer. The timeline was fragile, and he had already taken a great risk by intervening. He stepped back, his heart heavy with the weight of the moment. "Stay safe, Nora," he said softly. "And remember, your son loves you more than anything." With that, Barry turned and sped away, his heart breaking with every step. He raced back to the future, hoping against hope that his actions had been enough to save his mother without unraveling the timeline. As he approached the present, the familiar sights of Central City came into view. Barry slowed to a stop, his mind racing with the implications of what he had done. He had saved his mother, but the future was still uncertain. Barry returned to Central City just in time to see Thawne on the brink of using the wormhole with the time sphere. He knew he had to act quickly to prevent further disruption to the timeline. Instead of confronting Thawne aggressively, Barry approached him with a calm demeanor, knowing the severity of the situation. "Thawne," Barry called out, his voice steady yet urgent. "You need to leave. The wormhole is becoming unstable, and if I close it, you will be stuck here forever." He knew Barry wasn't bluffing, the Flash never did. With a nod of resignation, Thawne quickly activated the time sphere and drove into the wormhole, disappearing in a flash of light. As Barry watched Thawne disappear into the unstable wormhole, instead of stabilizing, it began to collapse in on itself with alarming speed. The air crackled with chaotic energy, and a dark, swirling vortex started to form at its center. Barry's heart sank as he realized the dire consequences of the collapsing wormhole. "Guys, this isn't good," Barry shouted urgently to Caitlin, Cisco, and Joe. "The wormhole is collapsing into a black hole." Caitlin's eyes widened in horror as she analyzed the readings. "Barry, we need to do something fast. If that black hole stabilizes, it could tear apart everything around it." Cisco's hands trembled over the controls. Barry, can you try to phase into it again? Maybe you can reverse the collapse somehow. Barry nodded grimly, his mind racing with possibilities. I'll try, but I need you to find a way to disrupt the gravitational pull. Caitlin, see if you can recalibrate the particle emitter to emit anti-gravitons. With no time to lose, Barry accelerated towards the collapsing wormhole. The black hole's gravitational force intensified with each passing second, threatening to consume everything in its path. He focused all his speed and concentration, phasing into the event horizon to confront the chaos within. Inside the collapsing wormhole, reality warped and twisted around Barry. The gravitational forces tugged at him relentlessly, threatening to tear him apart. Barry pushed forward, navigating through the turbulent energies with precise control, searching for a way to reverse the collapse. Back at Star Labs, Caitlin and Cisco worked feverishly to recalibrate the particle emitter. Barry, we're sending anti-gravitons your way. Caitlin called out over the comm link. Cisco adjusted the controls, his expression determined. Hang in there, Barry. We've got your back. Inside the black hole, Barry intercepted the anti-gravitons, directing their energy towards destabilizing the collapsing singularity. The energies clashed violently, causing a cataclysmic feedback loop within the wormhole. Sparks of energy erupted around him as Barry struggled to maintain control. Outside, Caitlin and Cisco monitored the feedback on their monitors. It's working, but the feedback is intense. Caitlin exclaimed, her voice filled with urgency. Cisco nodded, sweat beading on his forehead as he made rapid adjustments. Barry, you're doing great. Keep it up. Barry gritted his teeth, his whole being focused on the monumental task before him. He could feel the black hole's grip weakening, the singularity beginning to destabilize under the barrage of anti-gravitons. With a final burst of effort, Barry pushed the limits of his speed and connection to the speed force. And then, in a blinding flash of light and energy, the collapsing black hole imploded upon itself. The destructive forces dissipated into nothingness, leaving behind only a lingering echo of its immense power. Barry emerged from the remnants of the event horizon, his suit singed and his body weary from the ordeal. Back at Star Labs, Caitlin and Cisco let out a collective sigh of relief as they watched Barry return safely. He did it, Caitlin murmured, her voice filled with admiration. Cisco grinned widely, relief washing over him. Barry Allen, the man who can outrun even a black hole. Barry staggered slightly as he rejoined his team, a mix of exhaustion and triumph in his eyes. Thanks, guys, he said breathlessly. We did it. Joe approached Barry, clapping him on the shoulder with pride. You saved the day again, Barry. I'm proud of you. Barry nodded, feeling the weight of their shared victory. But Thon. His voice trailed off as he glanced towards the now quiet and empty platform where the wormhole had been. He's gone? We'll deal with Thon, Caitlin reassured him, her expression resolute. Right now, let's focus on what we can control. You are right, Caitlin, now time to go get my mother. Chapter 37, Meeting Nora. As the team at Star Labs celebrated their victory over the collapsing black hole, Barry's mind was already racing towards the next step. He knew he had to reunite his family after saving Central City from another catastrophe. Barry took a deep breath and turned to the team, his eyes filled with determination. It's time for me to go get my mother. My father and I need to be with her now. Caitlin, Cisco, and Joe nodded in understanding, their faces reflecting a mix of relief and support. Ronnie, who had miraculously survived the ordeal, stood with them, his arm around Caitlin's shoulders. We're proud of you, Barry, Caitlin said, her voice filled with emotion. Go get your family. Barry smiled gratefully at his friends. Thank you all. I couldn't have done this without you. Joe clapped Barry on the shoulder, his eyes misty with pride. You've earned this, Barry. Go and be with your family. After heartfelt goodbyes, Barry and his father, Henry Allen, stood ready. Henry looked at his son, his eyes reflecting a mixture of hope and disbelief. Barry, are you sure she's really alive? Barry nodded confidently. I am, Dad. I saved her. She's waiting for us in Fawcett City. Henry's eyes welled up with tears of joy. Thank you, son. I don't know how I can ever repay you for this. Barry shook his head. You don't have to, Dad. This is for all of us. With a final nod to his friends, Barry picked up his father, and in a flash of lightning, they sped away towards Fawcett City. The journey, though incredibly fast, felt like an eternity for Henry, who was filled with anticipation and nervousness. As Barry and his father raced towards Fawcett City, the city came into view, bathed in the soft glow of streetlights and the distant hum of nighttime activity. Fawcett City was a place of contrast. Charming old buildings stood alongside modern structures, creating a unique blend of history and progress. The streets were lined with trees that rustled gently in the night breeze, casting dappled shadows on the sidewalks. The city had an inviting atmosphere, with families strolling hand in hand, couples enjoying late-night dinners at cozy cafes, and street performers entertaining small crowds. It was a place that exuded warmth and a sense of community. As they neared their destination, Barry slowed down, setting his father gently on the ground. Henry looked around, taking in the serene beauty of the city, his heart pounding with anticipation. Suddenly, their attention was drawn to a commotion on a nearby street corner. A young boy, no older than 12, was sprinting down the sidewalk, his school backpack bouncing with each step. He was trying to catch a bus that was just beginning to pull away from the curb. Wait, stop, I'm coming, the boy shouted, his voice filled with urgency and determination. Behind him, a woman with a loving, motherly smile called out, her voice carrying a mix of concern and amusement. Billy, be careful. Watch your steps, or you'll trip. Billy glanced back at his mother, giving her a quick nod before focusing on his goal. With a final burst of speed, he managed to reach the bus, the driver kindly waiting for him. He clambered aboard, flashing a triumphant grin at his mother. The woman chuckled softly, shaking her head with a mix of exasperation and pride. She waved to her son as the bus pulled away, then turned and walked back towards her home, a quaint little house with flower boxes in the windows and a white picket fence. Barry raised a brow as he watched Billy sprinting towards the school bus. The boy reminded him strikingly of the Billy Batson from the comics, even resembling the kid who played the character in the live-action series. What baffled him even more was that the woman whom Billy called mother was his own mother, Nora. Henry noticed Barry's reaction and followed his gaze. What is it, Barry? He asked, a hint of concern in his voice. Barry shook his head slowly, trying to process the situation. That boy, he looks familiar. But it's probably nothing. Let's just go see Mom. Henry nodded, his eyes filled with anticipation and nervousness. They walked towards Nora's quaint house, Barry's mind racing with questions. As they approached the front door, Barry knocked gently. The sound echoed in the still night air. Moments later, the door opened, and there stood Nora Allen, her eyes widening in shock and disbelief as she saw Barry and Henry standing before her. Henry? Barry, she whispered, her voice trembling. Barry stepped forward, his heart full. Mom, it's me. It's really us. Nora's eyes welled up with tears as she reached out, touching their faces to ensure they were real. Oh, my boys, she sobbed, pulling them both into a tight embrace. My boys. The family stood there in the doorway, reunited at last, as the warmth of their love and the promise of a new beginning filled the night. As they stepped inside Nora's home, the atmosphere was filled with a mix of relief, joy, and curiosity. Barry and Henry looked around, taking in the cozy surroundings that Nora had made her own. The living room was adorned with family photos, books scattered across a small coffee table, and a comfortable sofa facing a fireplace adorned with a few flickering candles. Barry took a deep breath, trying to find the right words to begin explaining everything that had happened. Mom, there's so much we need to tell you. About where we've been, what's happened to us, and how we managed to come back to you. Nora wiped away tears of happiness, her gaze shifting between Barry and Henry, disbelief still mingling with overwhelming relief. I don't understand, Barry. I saw. Barry gently guided her to sit down on the sofa, Henry sitting close beside her. We know, Mom. You saw the impossible. But somehow, we've found a way back. Henry added softly, it's a long story, Nora. But the important thing is that we're here now, with you. Nora held their hands tightly, her eyes searching theirs for answers. Barry, how is this possible? I saw you were. Barry nodded solemnly. I know what you saw, Mom. It's something I never thought I could change. But somehow, against all odds, I found a way to save you. Henry placed a reassuring hand on Nora's shoulder. Nora, it's a miracle. Barry, he did the impossible. He changed everything. Nora's expression softened, a mix of disbelief and wonder still evident. But how? How did you do it, Barry? Barry took a deep breath, steeling himself to recount the events that had led to this miraculous reunion. I found a way to alter the course of history, to save you from the tragedy that haunted us all. As Barry spoke, Nora's disbelief slowly gave way to awe and gratitude. She squeezed Barry and Henry's hands, her voice choked with emotion. Barry, Henry, you've been through so much. I can't believe you've done all this for me. Barry smiled warmly, his eyes reflecting the love and admiration he felt for his mother. We'd do anything for you, Mom. You're our family. And now, we have a chance to make up for lost time. Henry nodded in agreement, his voice steady with determination. Nora, we're here now. Together. And we're not going anywhere. Nora leaned in, enveloping them both in a heartfelt embrace. Tears of joy streamed down her cheeks as she held them close, feeling the warmth of their presence and the overwhelming sense of love that filled the room. Outside, the night in Fawcett City continued its peaceful rhythm, oblivious to the miraculous reunion taking place within Nora's home. The streetlights cast gentle pools of light on the quiet neighborhood, cradling the Allen family in a moment of tranquility and healing. For Barry, Henry, and Nora, this night marked a new beginning, one filled with hope, love, and the promise of a future together. As they sat together, sharing stories and laughter, they knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them as a family, united and stronger than ever before. Chapter 38, Shazam! Billy was all smiles as he settled into his seat on the bus, recalling how his current mother, Nora, had taken him in after he ran away from the foster home he was placed in. He had tried to run from her too, but no matter what he did, he could never escape her determination and kindness. Eventually, she had gone as far as adopting him but still let him use his birth name. Over time, he came to see her as his real mother. He knew Nora had her own family, but something impossible had happened, and she found herself here in Fawcett City. Despite this, she always held on to the hope that she would see them again someday. Today, Billy was particularly excited because he was going on a school excursion. The anticipation buzzed through him as the bus began its journey. However, his excitement quickly turned to dread when a man in a black suit with a lightning bolt on his chest suddenly appeared in front of the school bus, floating in the air. He was an imposing figure, with a muscular build and a fierce expression. The man's voice boomed as he demanded, "Bring me the champion." All the kids on the bus were instantly terrified. Billy's heart pounded in his chest as he looked at the man, realizing he was face to face with someone with powers. The other children huddled together, eyes wide with fear. Seeing no response, Black Adam grew impatient. Without a second thought, he summoned a bolt of lightning and aimed it directly at the bus. The sky seemed to crack open as the bolt shot down, and in that moment, Billy thought it was all over. But just as the lightning was about to hit, a figure appeared in front of the bus, taking the full brunt of the attack. When the dust cleared, Billy couldn't believe his eyes. It was Superman, kneeling and visibly shaking from the impact. The magical properties of Black Adam's attack had weakened him, revealing a vulnerability he hadn't known he possessed. Black Adam, unfamiliar with Superman or any of the current heroes or customs of modern civilization due to his long banishment, hovered menacingly in the air. He stared at the fallen hero with a mixture of curiosity and contempt. Superman struggled to his feet, his voice strained but firm. "You won't harm these children," he declared, standing protectively between Black Adam and the bus. Billy watched, his fear mingling with awe as he witnessed the courage of the Man of Steel. Superman turned his head slightly towards the bus, his voice urgent but calm. "Kids, get out of here. Run to safety." The children, still terrified, hesitated for a moment before scrambling out of the bus. Billy hesitated, looking back at the man who had saved them and then towards the city, his mind racing. He couldn't bear the thought of Nora losing another child, so he decided to run back home to make sure she was safe. As he sprinted away from the bus, his heart pounding, the scenery around him began to blur. The sounds of the city faded, replaced by a strange, echoing silence. Suddenly, Billy found himself in a different place entirely. He was in a vast, dimly lit cavern. The walls were adorned with ancient symbols, and the air was filled with a sense of profound power. At the center of the cavern, an old man sat on a throne made of stone. The man had a long white beard and wore a flowing robe. He gazed at Billy with eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. Billy slowed to a stop, his breath catching in his throat as he took in the surroundings. The cavern had an eerie, yet majestic atmosphere, with torches casting flickering shadows on the walls. The old man on the throne radiated an aura of authority and mystery. "Welcome, Billy Batson," the old man said, his voice resonant and filled with gravity. "I have been waiting for you." Billy looked around, bewildered. "Where am I? Who are you?" "You are in the Rock of Eternity," the old man replied. "I am the wizard, the keeper of the powers you are destined to inherit." Billy's mind raced as he tried to comprehend what was happening. "Powers? What do you mean?" The wizard rose from his throne, his movements slow but deliberate. "You have been chosen, Billy, to be the champion of magic. The world is in need of a hero, and you have been deemed worthy." Billy felt a mixture of fear and excitement. "What do I have to do?" The wizard extended his hand, and a staff appeared, glowing with a mystical light. "Speak my name, Shazam, and you will be transformed into your true self, a champion with the power to protect the world." Billy took a step back, shaking his head. "No, this can't be real. I'm just a kid. I can't be a hero. I have to get back to my mom." The wizard's eyes softened with understanding. "Billy, I know this is overwhelming. But the world is in danger, and only you have the power to save it." Billy clenched his fists, torn between his desire to return to his mother and the responsibility being placed upon him. "Why me? I'm just a kid who runs away from everything." "Because, despite your fears and doubts, you have a good heart," the wizard said gently. The name Shazam is an acronym of the 6 immortal elders: Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury. Each of these gods and heroes grants you a portion of their power, the wizard explained, his voice reverberating through the cavern. Billy hesitated, his mind racing with the enormity of the situation. "I don't know if I can do this. I'm just a kid." The wizard nodded, understanding Billy's reluctance. "Courage is not the absence of fear, Billy, but the will to face it. You have the heart of a hero. You just need to believe in yourself." Billy looked down at the ground, his thoughts a whirlwind of uncertainty. The wizard's words echoed in his mind. "What if I mess up? What if I can't handle it?" The wizard stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on Billy's shoulder. "You will not be alone. The power of Shazam is great, but so is the wisdom that comes with it. You will learn, and you will grow." Billy took a deep breath, trying to summon the courage he needed. He thought about Nora, about Superman, and the kids on the bus. He couldn't let them down. "Okay," he said, his voice trembling but resolute. "I'll do it." A smile spread across the wizard's face. "Good. Now, speak my name with purpose and conviction." Billy took another deep breath, his heart pounding. He closed his eyes and shouted, "Shazam!" A bolt of lightning shot down from the ceiling of the cavern, striking Billy. The air crackled with energy as he was enveloped in a blinding light. When the light faded, Billy was transformed. He stood tall, clad in a red suit with a white cape and a golden lightning bolt on his chest. He could feel the power coursing through him, filling him with strength and confidence. The wizard looked at him with pride. "Now go, champion. The world needs you." Billy nodded, he knew what he had to do. In a flash, he disappeared, ready to face Black Adam and protect the innocent. Back in the city, the battle between Superman and Black Adam raged on. Superman, weakened by the magical attack, struggled to hold his ground. Black Adam loomed over him, ready to deliver the final blow. Suddenly, a streak of red shot through the air, and Billy now Shazam landed between Superman and Black Adam. "That's enough," Shazam declared, his voice echoing with newfound authority. Black Adam's eyes narrowed as he assessed the new arrival. So, the champion finally shows himself, he sneered. Let's see if you're worthy of the power you wield. With a roar, Black Adam launched himself at Shazam, but Billy stood his ground. He met Black Adam's attack head-on, their clash sending shockwaves through the city. As the battle ensued, Billy felt the strength of Hercules, the wisdom of Solomon, the stamina of Atlas, the power of Zeus, the courage of Achilles, and the speed of Mercury guiding him. He fought with everything he had, determined to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. In that moment, Billy Batson truly became Shazam, the champion of magic, ready to face any challenge that came his way. Chapter 39, Shazam, Superman, and Flash vs Black Adam. Shazam braced himself as Black Adam charged, their fists colliding with a thunderous impact. The force of their blows sent shockwaves rippling through the city, shattering windows, and shaking buildings. Billy could feel the power of the gods flowing through him, but he quickly realized that Black Adam was not an ordinary opponent. His attacks were precise and devastating, honed by centuries of experience. Superman, still weakened by the magical onslaught, struggled to his feet. Despite his injuries, he was determined to help Shazam. With a burst of super speed, he flew at Black Adam, catching him off guard with a powerful punch to the jaw. Black Adam staggered but quickly recovered, his eyes blazing with fury. 2 against 1? Is this the best you can do? He taunted, his voice dripping with disdain. Undeterred, Superman and Shazam worked together, their attacks coordinated and relentless. Shazam used his lightning to keep Black Adam off balance, while Superman's super strength and heat vision added to the assault. However, Black Adam's experience and power proved to be formidable. He parried their attacks with ease, countering with brutal efficiency. The battle raged on, with no clear winner in sight. The streets of Fawcett City became a war zone, with cars overturned and debris scattered everywhere. Civilians fled in terror, seeking shelter from the destructive clash of titans. Superman and Shazam exchanged a quick glance, silently communicating their determination to protect the city and its people. They launched another coordinated assault, with Shazam summoning a massive bolt of lightning that struck Black Adam, momentarily stunning him. Superman followed up with a powerful punch that sent Black Adam crashing into a nearby building. But Black Adam was far from defeated. He emerged from the rubble, his eyes glowing with unbridled rage. "You cannot defeat me," he roared, his voice echoing through the city. "I have fought gods and monsters. You are nothing compared to my power." He launched himself at Superman, his fists glowing with magical energy. Superman braced for the impact but was knocked back by the sheer force of Black Adam's attack. Shazam tried to intervene, but Black Adam was relentless, his attacks coming faster and harder. Superman, weakened by the continuous exposure to Black Adam's magic, struggled to keep up. He knew that if they didn't find a way to end the fight soon, they might not survive. "New guy, we need to work together," he called out, his voice strained. Shazam nodded, his mind racing as he tried to come up with a plan. He remembered the wisdom of Solomon, and an idea began to form. "Superman, keep him busy. I have an idea." Superman nodded and launched himself at Black Adam, using his remaining strength to keep the powerful adversary occupied. Shazam, meanwhile, summoned all the power he could muster. He focused on the lightning, calling upon the full might of Zeus. With a roar, Shazam unleashed a massive bolt of lightning that struck Black Adam directly. The impact was immense, lighting up the entire city and sending shockwaves through the ground. Black Adam screamed in pain as the magical energy coursed through him, weakening him momentarily. Superman seized the opportunity, delivering a powerful punch that sent Black Adam sprawling. Shazam joined in, their combined strength finally overwhelming their opponent. Black Adam, battered and weakened, struggled to rise. But before they could deliver the final blow, Black Adam summoned the last of his strength and unleashed a devastating blast of magical energy. The force of the explosion sent Superman and Shazam flying, their bodies crashing into the ground with bone-jarring impact. As the dust settled, Black Adam stood, his chest heaving with exertion. He was weakened, but his determination remained unbroken. "You may have the power of the gods," he snarled, "but you lack the will to use it." Superman and Shazam, bruised and battered, slowly rose to their feet. They exchanged a determined look, ready to continue the fight. But before they could launch another attack, a sudden voice cut through the chaos. The sudden voice belonged to none other than the Flash, who appeared in a blur of red and gold lightning, skidding to a halt in front of Black Adam with a smirk plastered on his face. Well, Flash quipped, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "If it isn't the grumpy ancient dude causing all the ruckus. You know, I heard there was a guy running around in black pajamas pretending to be a tough guy. Didn't realize it was you, Black Adam." Black Adam's eyes narrowed at the speedster's arrival, irritation flashing across his face. "Another hero to fall," he growled, his fists crackling with dark energy. Flash darted around Black Adam, his movements a blur. "You know, I don't usually fight guys who look like they stepped out of a museum exhibit, but I guess I can make an exception for you," he teased. "By the way, do you ever take a break from looking angry? It's gotta be exhausting." Shazam, seeing the Flash in action, couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. He had already seen Superman, and now the Flash was here too. Today was turning out to be quite the superhero-filled day. "Flash, glad you could join us," Shazam called out, grinning. "You sure know how to make an entrance." "Hey, Shazam. Figured you and Supes could use a hand," Flash replied, his tone light and playful. He zipped around Black Adam again, delivering a rapid series of punches that seemed to come from all directions. So, what's your deal, big guy? Didn't get enough attention in ancient Egypt. Black Adam swatted at the Flash, trying to catch him, but the speedster was too quick. Stay still and face me like a warrior. Black Adam roared, frustration evident in his voice. Flash laughed, dodging effortlessly. Sorry, no can do. I'm more of a run circles around my enemies kind of guy. Plus, I gotta keep my cardio up. Superman and Shazam took advantage of Flash's distraction, regrouping, and preparing for another coordinated attack. Superman nodded at Shazam, a silent understanding passing between them. They launched themselves at Black Adam, combining their strength and power to press the assault. Flash continued to taunt Black Adam, zipping in and out of his reach. You know, they say laughter is the best medicine. Maybe if you cracked a smile once in a while, you'd be a lot happier. Just a thought. Black Adam, growing increasingly enraged, unleashed a massive wave of magical energy in an attempt to hit all three heroes at once. Flash, with his super speed, managed to dodge it, while Superman and Shazam absorbed the brunt of the attack, their combined strength holding them steady. Alright, enough playing around, Flash said, his tone becoming more serious. Time to take you down for good. With renewed determination, Flash joined Superman and Shazam in their assault, using his speed to land rapid blows and keep Black Adam off balance. The three heroes worked in perfect harmony, their combined efforts overwhelming even Black Adam's formidable power. The battle was fierce and relentless, each side refusing to give in. But with the addition of Flash's speed and agility, the tide began to turn in favor of the heroes. Black Adam, despite his centuries of experience and power, found himself struggling against their united front. As the fight wore on, Black Adam's attacks grew more desperate, his strength waning. Superman, Shazam, and Flash pressed their advantage, delivering blow after blow, their teamwork seamless. Finally, with one last coordinated effort, Shazam summoned a massive bolt of lightning that struck Black Adam, sending him crashing to the ground. Superman and Flash followed up with powerful punches that left Black Adam weakened and defeated. Breathing heavily, the three heroes stood over their fallen foe, ready for any last attempt he might make. But Black Adam, beaten and exhausted, could only glare up at them with a mix of anger and grudging respect. Well, that was fun, Flash said, grinning. Who's up for ice cream? Chapter 40, Family Reunion. Flash smirked, pulling out a small device from his belt and activating it. A shimmering portal appeared, the entrance to the Phantom Zone. Black Adam, too weak to resist, was quickly pulled into the interdimensional prison, his furious roars echoing as he vanished from sight. Well, that takes care of that, Flash said, dusting off his hands. He turned to Superman and Shazam. Nice teamwork, guys. Superman nodded, his face serious but grateful. Thanks for the assist, Flash. We couldn't have done it without you. Anytime, Supes, Flash replied, giving him a friendly pat on the shoulder. Superman turned to Shazam and gave him a nod. Good job, Shazam. We'll talk more later. Shazam nodded back, a mix of pride and exhaustion on his face. Thanks, Superman. With that, Superman took off into the sky, leaving a gust of wind in his wake. Flash watched him go, then turned to Shazam with a mischievous grin. Time to go home, kid, or should I say, kid bro. Shazam's eyes widened in surprise, his heart racing. How did Flash know? His mind was filled with worry and confusion. Flash chuckled, noticing Shazam's anxious expression. Relax, kid. I have a knack for figuring things out. Besides, we heroes have our ways. How did you know? Shazam stammered, his voice tinged with fear. Flash chuckled and shook his head. Come on, Billy, I don't have time to explain. Mom is waiting for you? Shazam's eyes widened further, his mind racing. How did Flash know his name? He was so stunned that he almost missed what Flash said next. It finally sank in, and Shazam's mouth dropped open in disbelief. He pointed at Flash, his voice shaky with astonishment. You are. Flash grinned, enjoying the moment. Yep, it's me, Barry Allen. Your friendly neighborhood speedster and, apparently, your brother now. Billy's jaw practically hit the floor. No way, you're Barry Allen? The Barry Allen? The one Mom has been talking about. Barry laughed and gave Billy a playful nudge. Guilty as charged. Now, let's get you home before Mom starts to worry. Shazam, still in shock, nodded dumbly. Right, yeah, home. But wait, how do you know it was me? I mean, we have never met before. Barry tapped his head. Let's just say, when you move as fast as I do, you pick up on things. Plus, it's kind of my job to keep an eye on promising new heroes. Billy nodded slowly, the initial shock giving way to a sense of awe and excitement. Wow, this is amazing. I can't believe I'm meeting you. And we're brothers. Barry ruffled Billy's hair again. Believe it, kid. Now, come on, let's get you back. We've had enough excitement for one day. Barry chuckled. How about I'll race you home, then? Shazam grinned, feeling a thrill at the idea. You're on. With that, Shazam took to the skies, his powerful form cutting through the air. Flash dashed alongside him on the ground, a streak of red and gold lightning keeping pace. They sped through the city, side by side, a dynamic duo bonded by both their powers and newfound familial connection. As they neared Billy's home, Flash called up to him, "Not bad for your first race, kid bro." Billy laughed, the joy of the moment washing over him. He touched down gently in front of his house, Barry arriving a split second later. So, what do you think? Barry asked, still grinning. Billy looked at him, his eyes sparkling with excitement and gratitude. I think this is the best day ever. Barry nodded, putting a hand on Billy's shoulder. Welcome to the family, Billy. Now, let's get inside. Mom's waiting. With that, they headed into the house, ready to share the incredible story of their day and the new bond they had discovered. Today was truly a day Billy would never forget. Barry and Billy entered the house to find Nora and Henry chatting in the living room. Nora's gaze shifted from her conversation to the striking figure in the flash suit, and a wave of nostalgia and pride washed over her. She remembered the man who had brought her to Fawcett City years ago and couldn't help but admire the man her son had become. Henry, seeing Shazam for the first time, raised an eyebrow in confusion. Who is this? He asked. Billy, still buzzing from the day's events, looked back at him. Billy, he said instinctively. Henry's confusion deepened. Billy? Our son Billy. Nora, noticing the unusual exchange and Billy's hero costume, was equally perplexed. What's going on here? Billy took a deep breath, trying to explain amidst the chaos of emotions. It's a long story. Black Adam tried to kill me because I was the chosen one. I met a wizard named Shazam who gave me these powers. When I say his name, I turn into. Before he could finish, his mind flashed back to the wizard's words. Not fully aware of what he was doing, Billy instinctively uttered, Shazam. In an instant, a bolt of lightning struck down, engulfing Billy in a dazzling flash of light. Barry, knowing this would happen, quickly moved Nora and Henry out of the way. As the light faded, Billy stood there, transformed back into his younger self. Nora and Henry stared in amazement as Billy, now back in his normal form, looked up at them with wide eyes. Henry, still processing the transformation, turned to Nora. Did he just? Nora, her eyes filled with tears and pride, stepped forward and embraced Billy. My little Billy, she said softly. You're our hero, and we're so proud of you. Billy, slightly disoriented but relieved, looked at Barry and said, I didn't know I could do that. Barry smiled, a hint of amusement in his eyes. It's all part of the powers, kid. You'll get the hang of it. Nora, still overwhelmed, looked at Barry and then at Billy. What else do we need to know? Barry explained briefly. Billy has the power to transform into Shazam with that word, thanks to the wizard. It's all part of his new abilities. As the family gathered around, the room filled with warmth and understanding. Despite the earlier confusion, they began to share their stories and experiences, finding joy in their new reality. The day had brought unexpected revelations, but it also deepened the bonds between them, making it a day they would all remember with a sense of wonder and pride.